Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 81 A New World. I will attack as a hero. Su Yi was a little surprised to see that Zizi Yingyan became a shadow soldier so easily. But he soon understood the reason. Hiriko Yingyan was originally a mechanical soldier created by the New Human Plan, and was a weapon born for killing. His purpose of working with Tendo Kikunosho to steal Nanabashi's legacy was also simple. That is to destroy the Stonehenge, then the war between humans and Gastrola will come, and the significance of his existence will be proven again. In other words, this guy is a pure war criminal. As long as he can participate in war and killing, he can achieve self-realization from it. I will allow you to keep your name and grant you the war and killing you have always dreamed of. Su Yi looked at the Leech Yingyan in front of him and said lightly. From now on, you will become the sharpest butcher knife under my command. Yingyan of Zizi let out a low-pitched laugh and bowed to Su Yi again. Before he turned into a shadow and disappeared, he glanced at the reluctant Xiaobanai and nodded slightly. Dad said, let me obey your orders and everything. Xiaobanai threw away the broken knife in his hand and walked obediently in front of Su Yi, without any murderous look from before. Then signed the contract first. Su Yi was very curious. It was just a glance just now. How did these two communicate? And with Hiriko Yingyan wearing that mask, can you really see his expression clearly? In any case, the originator of the Hiriko Shadow Yin was successfully transferred to Su Yi's name. I am one with you now. After signing the contract, Kobanai happily went to play with Yenju. Lend me that high-level dagger. I'll go kill a few Gastruli to see if it works. It's the advanced mathematics dagger. If you pronounce the name correctly, I'll lend it to you. Obviously, Yenju herself didn't pronounce it correctly. Looking at the two little girls who had turned enemies into friends, Su Yi shrugged and began to think. In this way, the two crises in Tokyo district have been successfully resolved. There shouldn't be any major disasters in the short term. As for Monolith number 32 and the Black Swan project, we'll probably have to wait for a while. Being able to resolve these two crises before exploring the new world will save us a lot of effort. As the hive was destroyed, the queen bee was also killed. The joint operation that has lasted for half a month should come to an end soon. However, it would be a waste if the outpost built by Sima Heavy Industry were abandoned. From what Wei Ji said, it is necessary to maintain the normal operation of some outposts in the restricted area and gradually expand the exploration of the restricted area. Since you have such an idea, it's a good opportunity to sort out the things at hand. In the president's reception room of Sima Heavy Industry, a special meeting convened by Sheng Tianzi, Wei Ji and Su Yi is being conducted in secret. The initiators who sign a contract with me can team up with each other and no longer need a promoter partner. Each team has a maximum of 5 people, which is exactly the number of people in a special operations team. Sima Heavy Industries outposts in the restricted area can be protected by them, and some combat-related tasks can also be assigned to them. As for the origin and residence of these cursed children. At this point, Su Yi looked at the Holy Emperor who seemed a little distracted. Sir, how is the floating island plan in Tokyo Bay going? The Holy Emperor was in a trance for a moment, then came to his senses and spoke quickly. The plan to build artificial floating islands was originally opposed by many factions. But after today, the opposition voices should decrease a lot. Haha, after all, you are very strong today. Su Yi imitated what he had heard before, coughed lightly, and then shouted in a serious tone. For the future of Tokyo, long live His Majesty the Holy Emperor. The Saint Emperor's pretty face, as white as snow, was instantly covered with blush, and he wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into in front of the two men. It's amazing that you can remain calm in front of so many people. Sima Weiji naturally would not miss the opportunity to tease her, and said leisurely. How does it feel to be a tyrant, my good lord? Upon hearing this word, the Holy Emperor had a complicated expression. I don't know how future generations will judge what I did. But as long as this city can be protected, I can accept any slander or defamation. Really? Then come on. Su Yi made no comment on the Saint Emperor's ambitions, and just thought of it as accompanying her to play a game of Civilization 7. However, he was determined to capture the cursed children, who had special skills. The artificial floating island was designed to house the cursed children of this world. Once the artificial floating island is successfully completed in Tokyo Bay, it will become an absolutely safe paradise. The cursed children who were abandoned and expelled for various reasons would be sent to the floating island to recuperate and study, and would sign a contract together. If they are willing to become combatants, they will form a team under the training of seniors such as Yenju and Sha Shi to explore the restricted area. As for the problem of the original enterovirus erosion of these cursed children, Suyi has an extremely simple and crude solution. Set the function of all contracted, cursed children, to nurse. This way they can use the heal function on themselves and other companions. The treatment in Terraria is not just an ordinary cure, but a complete removal of all negative states on the body. Despite testing, Suyi was unable to eliminate the gastrula virus from Yenju. After all, this is the source of their power, and it has become one with themselves. However, after several days of observation, SEMA heavy industry researchers found that the cursed child who receives treatment will completely suppress the enterovirus erosion in the body. These children are finally able to grow up. The Holy Emperor covered his chest with his hands in relief, feeling as if a huge rock had fallen from his heart. However, the public's view on the cursed child will not change in the short term. Why should I care what they think? Suyi shrugged and scoffed at the Saint Emperor's concerns. You just need to send all the cursed children to the artificial floating island. The cursed children will live and grow up happily on this island. That's enough. As for the people of this city, it is better for them to honestly contribute taxes to maintain the operation of the artificial floating island. Your Highness Suyi, the Holy Emperor sighed, not everyone has ill will towards the cursed child. That's right, but the crimes committed by those evildoers will be borne by all innocent people. Suyi said calmly. Isn't this exactly what the cursed child has been enduring? Don't forget why I saved this world and this city. If it weren't for these cursed children, I might have sided with the gastrula, maybe. The thought of Suyi's ability to summon an overwhelming army of shadows with a wave of his hand made me feel a little sad. 014603124 Falu 172,263,421. The Holy Emperor's already fair complexion looked even paler. If he really stood against humanity, the world would probably face true destruction. Okay, the atmosphere shouldn't be so tense. Sima Weiji had changed into pajamas at some point, and walked over with graceful steps, lying seductively on Suyi's shoulder. Honey, are you finally done? I still have a 5-hour Suyi coupon in my hand. Ah, how come you still remember this? Women have very good memories. Seeing Sima Weiji and Suyi entangled together, the Holy Emperor felt his face getting a little hot and quickly stood up. I'm going back to the holy residence first. Wait, you can't leave. Sima Weiji raised her head, with a sly smile on her pretty face. I have already told your secretary that you will stay at Sima Heavy Industries tonight. What? The Holy Emperor then discovered that his secretary and attendants had disappeared from the door at some point. Probably he was fooled by Sima Weiji using various methods and means. Ms. Sima Weiji, what exactly are you planning? Oh, you sound so strange. Aren't we good sisters? Sima Weiji walked over and took the Holy Emperor's arm, and brought her to Suyi in a playful tone. I'm even willing to share the Suyi 5-hour coupon with you, what else do you want? Quote. What coupon? The Holy Emperor thought he had heard it wrong and repeated it again. This is a valuable reward that allows Suyi to do whatever he wants with you within these 5 hours. So it was used by His Highness Suyi. I heard it clearly, but I didn't expect His Majesty the Holy Emperor would still play dumb. Quote. The Holy Emperor was speechless, his small hands tugging at the corner of his clothes, looking a little at a loss. What should I do next? Tisk, I didn't expect the scholars at the holy residence wouldn't even teach this kind of thing. Sima Weiji seemed to have not expected that the Holy Emperor would be so innocent in such matters. Who said that? I do know how to give birth to a child. Forget it, your knowledge is totally insufficient. Let me and my dear do the classroom practice first. Sima Weiji hugged Suyi's neck and spoke softly in his ear. Are you satisfied with this gift, the great hero who saved the world? To paint a blank piece of paper with your own colors, for a man, it's a great sense of accomplishment, right? Of course I couldn't be more satisfied. Suyi coughed lightly and looked at the Holy Emperor. I hope your highness will watch carefully and learn well. After all, I still have to check your homework next. Sima Heavy Industry did not have a holiday today, but the lights in the president's reception room were on all night. It's been more than 10 hours. Su Yi glanced at the digital screen on the bedside table and said lazily. You have been planning this from the beginning, right? Haha. If you didn't drag the Holy Emperor into this, how could you have stayed with me for so long? Miori rested her head in Su Yi's arms and spoke softly. And I already regret it. Just now you spent much more time teaching Saint Emperor than I did. Then, I'll make it up to you next time. How long will it take for the next time? Has the trouble in the restricted area been eliminated? You know, there are other worlds that need to be saved and are calling me. Su Yi gently stroked the soft black hair of the girl in his arms. Lines of information kept appearing in front of his eyes. A traversable world has been found. Travel location, Melamag, Temple of Prophecy. This world is in disaster and is calling you. You will be the hero predicted to come. You can choose one of the 4 weapons, shield, gun, sword, and bow as a monster weapon. This world is affected by the power of disaster, and the black tide will be replaced by the invasion of Satan's army. Melamag, plus the setting of black tide. Su Yi already knew which world he had just unlocked. ZD. After thinking for a moment, Su Yi said to himself. But, is it okay not to choose the shield? Chapter 82 The Goddess's Dark History and Preparations Before Crossing. The newly explored world originates from the rising of the shield hero. Although the protagonist is the shield hero. But several other weapons also come with the same plug-in capabilities. Each holy weapon has the effect that, when the user comes into contact with a weapon of the same type, he can copy it into the other party and gain additional skills. So in Su Yi's opinion, it doesn't matter which of these 4 holy artifacts you choose. In this case, why not abandon the shield, which has a relatively narrow versatility, and choose the most diverse weapon in Terraria, the sword. Holy weapons were not magical weapons from the beginning, but rather the lowest level wooden swords and wooden shields. After being summoned, the heroes need to travel around the kingdom and embark on adventures. During the journey, you need to hone your skills and strengthen the holy weapons in your hands. Each holy weapon has different enhancement methods and characteristics. As for the sword, I remember it's a rare skill that can transform items into energy, and use the energy to strengthen weapons. Shouldn't it spawn an SSR at the beginning? Different from other, amateur, heroes summoned to another world. Su Yi has Terraria which can provide nearly unlimited resources. Thinking of this, Su Yi couldn't help but get excited. The original protagonist's experience was really frustrating, this time he directly starts off as a dragon proudly. Now Fumi Iwaya, watch carefully, try to learn it well. I guess you won't be able to learn it. I have to go now. Su Yi finally broke free from Wuji's weak and boneless arms, stood up and put on his clothes. Oh, I almost forgot, this is for you. Under the girl's reluctant gaze, Su Yi took out a pink ring. This ring is the decomposition and shaping function of his stigmata alchemy. This item is created by combining the functions of a piggy bank and a coin slot. As long as you wear it on your hand, you can open a 60-grid storage space, and it does not occupy the accessories slot. This is much more practical than the previous piggy bank and coin slot. Su Yi gave it a simple and crude name, Adventurer's Ring. It was obvious that he was planning to sell this thing in the Orario store. However, the production cost is too high, and the functions are somewhat shocking. So he never had the chance to launch this new product. On the contrary, there is no such concern for contractors from other worlds. It's a beautiful ring, I will treasure it. Miori happily put the ring on her ring finger. She didn't care about the function of the ring, as long as it was something Su Yi gave her, she liked it. Go save the world, honey. Remember to bring me the local specialties from that world. Local specialties. Su Yi, who was about to teleport back, thought about it and suddenly smiled evilly. How about the dragon eggs? Question mark exclamation mark quote. While Sima Weiji was stunned, Su Yi had disappeared, leaving the answer to be revealed in the future. This guy is more like AB ******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** help but hammer on the window, then spread out her palms. The girl looked at the ring sparkling in the sun, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but rise. Hehe, so what if he's the Holy Emperor? My dear, you still like me more. Today is also a calm day in Orario. Perhaps it was because of the presence of the gods, when other worlds were suffering from disasters to varying degrees. The world is still sunny and bright, and people are full of beautiful expectations for tomorrow. You mean, you have received a call from the world to become a hero? After hearing Su Yi's report, Hephaestus put down the forging hammer in surprise. This was the nth time she had to interrupt her work because of Su Yi's matter. Well, according to the information I got, this is the situation in this world. Su Yi briefly summarized the situation in the Shield Hero world to the goddess. After hearing this, the goddess was not too surprised. There are actually many worlds like this, and many gods spread faith while helping these worlds that have been hit by disasters. Su Yi said thoughtfully. Then I will declare myself the chosen one of Hephaestus, and I have come to this world to save all living beings. No, that would be too shameful. I'm past that age. Halfway through her words, Hephaestus covered her face as if she had heard some dark history. If you want to save them, you don't need to use my name. Besides, according to what you said, aren't there already various churches in this world? Yes, there is. Su Yi shrugged and didn't continue. After all, the church in the world of the Shield Hero is no different from the villains. By the way, if there are believers of the goddess in other worlds, will I encounter them? Well, there's almost no chance of that happening. Hearing Su Yi's question, Hephaestus scratched her cheek in embarrassment. In order to better experience the life of their clan, the gods who came down to earth sealed up their own divine powers. So in the past thousands of years, we have not responded to our respective believers. Quote. Don't look at me like that. Ji Ki is also a god who forged things with me. Seeing Su Yi casting a subtle look at her, the goddess coughed lightly and explained. My followers are generally pragmatic and only recite my name when forging. Even if they don't respond, the forging skills they have mastered will not disappear. After hearing the secrets about the gods, Su Yi asked curiously. What about Lady Hestia? Quote. When this name was mentioned, Hephaestus suddenly became interested. Don't look at her like this now. In fact, her power is higher than mine. She is the chief of all goddesses, the goddess in charge of the holy fire. Then why did she become, a housewife? In front of Hephaestus, Su Yi replaced the word, rice bug, with another more respectable word. When she was in heaven, Hestia was quite popular and was often pursued by male gods. In order to avoid these male gods, Hestia specifically asked Zeus for the right to control all the stoves in the underworld, and changed her function to, god of the hearth and household. Hephaestus smiled, as if she was admiring her good friend's amazing move. Then she can justifiably hide at home and, no longer face those male gods. Su Yi thought to himself that it was no wonder that Hestia was a famous virgin goddess. So it turned out that he changed his priesthood directly in order to avoid being pursued. She is unprecedented and unrivaled in the world of otaku girls. Okay, I've told you too much. If she finds out, she'll talk about it behind your back. After revealing the dark history of the Lolita goddess, Hephaestus felt very happy. She looked at Su Yi, thought for a moment, and suddenly said. Although I can't use my divine power now, I can't bless you with divine blessing. But, it's still okay to leave a mark. This way, even if you accidentally die in battle in another world, you can follow the mark back to heaven and be found by me. Hearing about the effect of the mark, Su Yi's mouth twitched and he couldn't help but complain. My goddess, can you please give me some good wishes? Before he could finish his words, Hephaestus had already lifted up her flaming hair and gently kissed him on the forehead. It's really troublesome without divine power, and I can only leave a mark in this way. The goddess muttered something, then looked at Su Yi. What were you trying to say? No, I am very satisfied with the mark of the goddess. Su Xin said solemnly. But I will try my best not to use the effect of this mark. It's good that you know this. This is the last guarantee I give you. After Su Yi left, Hephaestus, who had just looked calm, suddenly blushed and touched her lips with her hand. I still did it, but I wouldn't feel at ease if it didn't leave a mark. Being able to become friends with Hestia, Hephaestus's innocence would only be even greater than Hestia's. In fact, she was not as good as the goddess Mengli. Hephaestus had not even had the experience of being pursued by a male god. Therefore, her feelings for Su Yi were also the first time in Hephaestus' life. The thought that Su Yi might have already gone to another world and faced the suffering of a world-destroying natural disaster made me feel uncomfortable. Hephaestus couldn't help but get nervous. Is this what you call concern? Before answering the call of the Shield Hero world, Su Yi still has a lot to deal with. The first thing is to leave enough shadow soldiers to protect the contractors from other worlds. Although the contractor can be resurrected, Suyi does not want his people to face death if possible. Afterwards, he returned to the Black Bullet world, swiped the Saint Emperor's face card, and helped Yanju and Sha Shi complete the admission procedures for a certain elementary school. As school-aged children, Suyi believes that it is necessary for them to receive knowledge education. The artificial floating island has not been built yet, so until then we will just make do with an ordinary primary school. With the special care of the Holy Emperor, and the fact that Ying Yin the Leech had been extracted by himself and turned into a shadow soldier. The identity of the cursed child that was revealed in the original work should not happen again. After a while, it won't matter whether my identity is leaked or not. As for the female high school students in the world of Apocalypse, they are very good at finding things to do for themselves. It is said that they borrowed the staff of regeneration and started to carry out greening projects in Beju City. What is this? Plant a zombie today and harvest a pea shooter tomorrow. When Suyi heard Seiko mention this, he showed a very subtle expression. Seiko, do you have any ideas here? Igog. Seiko, who had just finished cleaning up the zombies and still had a lot of blood on her body, smiled gently. I am not very talented, but I have learned the art of flower arrangement at home. Okay, I see. The business of the adventurer's house has been booming recently. Unfortunately, Suyi had just rented a few shops nearby and had no time to take care of it. I guess I have to wait until I have established a firm foothold in the world of Shield Hero before I can come back and continue to deal with the branch's affairs. By the way, the time flow rate ratio between the main world and the Shield Hero world is 2:1. That is, 1 day in the Shield Hero world is 2 days in the main world and the Black Bullet world. It is also 4 days in Terraria and Apocalypse world. This is the first time that the time flow rate in the new world is lower than that in the main world. There's no pattern at all. Never mind. It's good this way. When other worlds are busy, not too much time will pass in the Shield Hero world. After making all preparations, Suyi called out the system. Do you respond to the call of this world? The time travel prompts this time all seem a little different. It is responding to the call, rather than directly crossing. Is this how a hero is treated? Suyi took a deep breath and calmed down. Yes. Please select your initial, holy weapon. I choose, sword. After making the final decision, Suyi felt himself trapped in a bizarre fog. When his vision became clear again, he had already arrived at a magnificent hall surrounded by people. Chapter 83. Start with a single draw of SSR, why are you unhappy? 3 other people were teleported to this church-like hall along with Suyi. They were dressed in modern clothing, such as sportswear, in stark contrast to the medieval-style robes of the priests around them. As for Suyi, he had already changed into a set of casual clothes bought by the bed owner for 0 yuan before he came. What on earth is going on? Among the other 3 travelers, someone asked in doubt. Later, everyone including Suyi noticed that they had an extra weapon in their hands after the crossing. Wooden shields, wooden swords, wooden bows, and wooden spears. It is indeed the 4 saints, warriors. An old man in gorgeous robes walked out from the priests and spoke. Brave men, please step up and save this world. What? After hearing these words, 3 young men who looked like college students shouted in surprise and doubt. Is this some kind of prank show? Where is the camera? Stop messing around, I have classes later. What does this sentence mean? Suyi always felt that this scene was more like the beginning of some kind of infinite flow novel. However, this is not a reincarnation space, nor is there any main god, but a serious summons for heroes. Although the situation is complicated and difficult to explain in a few words, I will use words that you can understand. 633, the old man thought for a moment and said the organized words. It was us who summoned the heroes here through the ancient summoning ritual. This world is facing a life or death crisis. I beg you, brave men, to help us overcome this difficult time. The old man, who seemed to be of a very high status, saluted the 4 brave men solemnly. However, apart from Suyi, the other young men didn't seem to buy it. No way. That is there a way for us to return to our original world? Let's deal with this problem first before we talk about other things. The boy who looked like a high school student at first glance raised the short bow in his hand and pointed it at the old man. They summoned us here suddenly without asking for our consent. If you use us and then leave us alone, wouldn't that be a waste of work? Although Suyi responded to the call himself, the group was summoned. But he didn't mind watching the performances of these fellow heroes. His eyes swept over several figures, and the corresponding information quickly emerged in his mind. The hero of the spear, Kitamura Motoyasu. The archer hero, Kawasumi Itsuki. And, the shield hero, Naofumi Iwatani. So, I should be taking over the identity of the original sword hero, Amaki Ren. Most of those who objected to the old man's request for help were the heroes of the spear and the heroes of the bow. As for the shield hero, the male protagonist of the original work, he is still a little confused about the situation at this time. Just like his personality, it would be better to say that he is a very stupid person rather than an honest one. I hope the 4 brave men can go to see the king first and then discuss the rewards. The old man in the long robe stepped aside, revealing a long corridor extending from the end of the solemn red carpet. "Ha, king, I really can't do anything to you." The handsome-looking spear hero who was obviously from the Yangzhou club spread his hands and followed. "It doesn't matter who you talk to, as long as the reward is not up to par, it's all the same." Wait for me." Seeing that the spear hero and the bow hero took the lead, the shield hero scratched his head and followed. However, when passing by Su Yi, he still stopped to remind her. "You are also summoned, right? You'd better catch up quickly." Su Yi nodded slightly and walked slowly with Iwaya Naofumi. As the male protagonist, Naofumi Iwaya is a good guy. The reason why he turned evil later was that his threshold for being a punching bag reached its limit and hit bottom and rebounded. His attitude seems pretty good, I can help him out when the time comes. Of course, the girls accepted it without hesitation. Anyway, in this world, those female characters have not yet been assigned, so there is no question of stealing someone else's favor. On both sides of the corridor leading to the throne, the scene of this royal capital gradually emerged. Under the vast sky is a prosperous city full of Western style. In terms of scale, it is about 1/5 of the labyrinth city of Warario. After all, as a city built with the help of the gods, Warario's scale is indeed a bit too large. However, Suyi and others had no time to appreciate the scenery of the city and were taken directly into the audience hall. Oh, are these young men the 4 holy warriors in the ancient legend? Sitting high on the throne and wearing a crown, the majestic old man looked down at everyone who walked into the hall. "I am the past of this country, Otokul Melamag II. Brave men, I allow you not to kneel." Although the several heroes summoned from the modern times had no intention of kneeling. To be honest, as far as first impression is concerned, this old man gives people a bad impression. It's like a king who is born when a country is in decline and decay, full of arrogance and conceit. First, I must explain the whole story to you. This country, and even the world, is heading towards destruction. Suyi noticed that several newly promoted heroes around him showed expressions of, it turns out to be like this, even Iwatani Naofumi was no exception. After all, this kind of plot routine has become prevalent and outdated in modern novels, movies and other works. Hearing such a setting at this time, it just seems a bit old-fashioned. Then the king began a long explanation. To put it simply, there is a prophecy that, the end of the world is coming. A disaster called, Kuroshio, will come this year. If we don't find a way to repel the, Kuroshio, the whole world will be doomed. In the prophecy, the signs of disaster can be predicted by a prop called, dragon-carved hourglass, and a warning can be issued 1 month in advance. In other words, there will be a 1-month buffer period before each, Kuroshio, tide. Countries around the world did not take this prophecy seriously at first, until the disaster struck. In the country that summons heroes, that is, the territory of Meromag, a giant crystal suddenly appeared, and a large number of monsters emerged from the portal next to the crystal. At that time, the national knights and adventurers joined forces to attack and barely repelled the monster army. But the next, Black Tide, will bring a more ferocious offensive. If this continues, the country's vitality will be completely exhausted. Therefore, the king and the 3 heroes held a ceremony to summon the heroes according to ancient traditions. This is the cause and effect of why everyone is summoned to this world. I see, so you mean that once you are summoned, you have to help for free. The spear hero crossed his arms and spoke to the king without any fear. That's really wishful thinking. As heroes, we also have free will. Yes, it's only when the disaster strikes that we hastily look for someone to take the blame. If the world is to be destroyed, then let it be destroyed. The bow hero also agreed. Naofumi Iwaya glanced at Suyi who didn't speak, and after thinking for a while, he decided to agree with them. We really have no obligation to obey your country's orders, and, can we return to our original world? Quote. 3 of the 4 heroes summoned were reluctant to cooperate. The eyes of the king and his ministers fell on Su Yi, who had not expressed his opinion. Even the few heroes who had just made speeches turned their gazes to Su Yi. Quote. I came here to accept the call of this world. Su Yi looked calm and spoke loudly with a very powerful tone. I am a follower of God, an explorer of the infinite world, a king who controls the shadows, and a brave savior. I don't care about the life or death of this country. It is the world that is calling for help. Before you get my help, you should prove that this country is worth saving by me. There was total silence in the audience hall. The other 3 heroes looked at each other. Although they didn't know each other before. But at this moment, the same thought emerged in everyone's mind. Chunabu, maybe. It's definitely Chunabu. The god's family, the Shadow King, the savior. Haha, I am dying of laughter. Even the king and his ministers showed an expression that they could not help but hold back their laughter. It seems that they have a good idea of what kind of heroes they can summon. But soon, the smiles on their faces froze. Because behind Su Yi, the 4-armed skeleton king burning with shadow flames quietly emerged at some point. The bloodthirsty red light flashing in the skull made everyone present shudder. Even the guards beside the king trembled in the face of such intimidating aura and strange posture. I'm done. In front of the king, Su Yi sat on one of the skeleton king's arms, crossed his legs and waited for the other party's next words. My country will offer generous rewards to all the brave warriors. The king's body was shaking so much that he almost stood up, but he finally managed to control his legs with the help of his royal pride. In addition, I will also provide a special support fund to help all the brave men get familiar with this world. We sincerely hope that the brave men will stand up to protect this world, so we will spare no effort to provide you with assistance. As if wanting to end the meeting quickly, the king spoke out all the conditions that were beneficial to the hero. These benefits might have been unleashed bit by bit in lengthy negotiations. But now, because of the strength that Su Yi suddenly showed, everything was put on the table. No one responded. In other words, everyone is waiting for the only person qualified to respond to speak. Okay, let's do this for now. Su Yi responded without comment. Go on, keep talking. What's the point of talking about this kind of atmosphere? The prophecy clearly said that the heroes summoned would be weak at first and would need to be constantly honed to become stronger. Why did such a fierce guy come at the beginning? Is there a loophole in the 4 saints summoning ceremony? The king and the bishop looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. After wiping the cold sweat from his face, the king said this. It's getting late. My dear brave men, please take good care of yourselves and wait until tomorrow to set out on your adventure. I will recruit elite adventurers who are qualified to serve as your companions before tomorrow. Come here, lead the brave men to their respective guest rooms. Chapter 84, The System, Panel in the Other World. Question mark. Su Yi. Question mark. Level, LV2. Occupation, Shadow King, Sword Warrior. Basic abilities, Strength SSS, Endurance SSS, Dexterity S, Agility S, Magic SSS. Development ability, Stigma Alchemy H. Skills, Terra Craftsman, Gift of Salvation. Magic, none. I can really see my own ability value. In the guest room, Su Yi lay on the soft bed, looking at the message box in front of him, marveling at it. The residents of this world are able to view similar status information. In this way, you can learn about your own attributes, as well as the skills, magic and other abilities you have mastered. After becoming a brave warrior in this world, Su Yi naturally gained similar abilities. However, his status panel is somewhat different from that of the local indigenous residents. Even different from the other heroes. Because judging from the extra information such as basic ability and development ability, the divine grace on Su Yi directly covered the panel of this world. For example, the level of this world is similar to that of an online game, and can be continuously upgraded to more than 3 digits. However, Su Yi's level is the level of the clan in the earthly world, LV2. In this world, level 2s are basically ordinary people such as new recruits, novice adventurers, or farmers. This shows that God's grace has a higher priority than the hierarchy of this world. After all, it is a favor bestowed by God himself, and it is definitely different from the cheap goods that everyone in this world has. However, this also has an advantage, which is that Su Yi can check his status more intuitively. Strength, endurance, and magic power have all reached SSS, not bad. My dexterity and agility are a bit low, there's still room for improvement. Is it because all the battles during this period were resolved by using powerful bricks to fly? It seems that I need to pay more attention to my body movements and positioning next time. Then, Su Yi used Identify on the wooden sword in his hand. As a holy weapon, this sword is definitely not a simple wooden sword. Sure enough, after a burst of brilliant golden light, a large amount of information popped up in Su Yi's field of vision. Holy weapon, sword, white. Plus can convert items into energy and use energy for enchantment. Plus can absorb energy to increase its own rarity, up to 10 times. Plus can copy, sword, weapons with a rarity lower than your own and gain skills. Plus using a sword to fight will accumulate proficiency, the upper limit is 100. Plus the higher the proficiency, the higher the damage caused by sword weapons. In the current world, weapons other than swords cannot be used. Reject the effects of other holy weapons. In short, this holy sword can continuously absorb the energy of other items to grow. At the same time, it can also copy the same type of sword weapons and gain corresponding skills. The more items Su Yi feeds, the rarer the sword it can transform into. Currently, its rarity is the second lowest white in Terraria. If you want to copy the orange rarity incomplete environmental blade in his hand, then you need to increase your rarity by 3 levels. The rarity of a holy sword can be increased up to 10 times, that is, to red 1. It looks like it will be useful until we defeat the Moon Lord. The original version of Terraria has 11 levels of rarity, with the highest level being purple. As for the rainbow color, it is a unique color dropped exclusively by the boss and is not counted in the regular rarity. Some more powerful items have been added to the disaster, and their rarity has been expanded. The highest level is level 17 inches red of disaster. If this holy sword is fully enhanced, it should be a relatively powerful level 11 or 12 weapon. Compared with some of the divine equipment in the late stage of the disaster, there is still some gap. For Su Yi now, it should be enough. But, in this world I can only use sword-type weapons. This is a not insignificant constraint. Su Yi currently has 2 main weapons, one is the blade of the defective environment, and the other is the super thermal ion cannon. When facing groups of enemies or large enemies, the latter is often used. The former will only be used when facing enemies like Hiriko Yingyan who are of human size and relatively flexible. Now as a sword hero, his weapon is limited to 1. It will naturally have some impact on combat effectiveness, but it's not a big problem. Judging from his performance in the audience hall just now, Su Yi's Shadow King skills can also be used. Even if Su Yi only relies on the shadow soldiers, it is enough to wipe out the world. Of course, he came to save the world, not to be the enemy of the world. Save the world. Let's start by feeding the holy sword with items. Just when Su Yi was about to return to Terraria and raise the rarity of the holy sword to orange level, there was a sudden knock on the door. Sword hero, are you free now? This is Iwatani Naofumi's voice. He came to see me probably only for that matter. Come in. Excuse me. Then, Naofumi Iwaya, who was a little reserved, pushed open the door. It turns out to be the shield hero. Gana. Hearing Su Yi addressing him, Iwaya Naofumi touched his neck awkwardly. Compared to your strength, I can't even be called a hero. I'm just an ordinary person who was summoned. Su Yi casually threw the holy sword into the inventory, and this action made the male protagonist's eyelids jump again. He was just studying the system of this world, but he couldn't seem to find the setting for the inventory. In other words, Su Yi actually has the ability to store space just now. It's so late, what do you want from me? Oh, that's it. Iwaya Naofumi came to his senses and directly stated the purpose of his visit. The other 2 heroes want to invite Su Yi to participate in the hero meeting to discuss future actions. No need. Su Yi had no interest in this and had his own reasons. You should have seen the last effect of the holy weapon. The heroes who hold holy weapons cannot team up and act together. Martial arts associations exclude each other. Quote. Su Yi said as a matter of course. With your strength, you are not able to adapt to the intensity of the battle I will face. Ahahaha, that's true. When he thought of the 4-armed skeleton king summoned by Su Yi, Ruogu Shangwen couldn't help but feel his scalp tingling. I'm afraid the small wooden shield in my hand can't even withstand a single blow. The powerful enemies and battle intensity that such strong men need to face are simply not something that these low-level heroes of LV1 can withstand. I will pass on your words to them. Just when Naofumi Iwaya was about to go home, Suyi suddenly said. Since you have a good attitude, I'll give you a piece of advice. Be careful women. Question mark quote. Until he walked out of the room, Naofumi Iwaya didn't understand the meaning of Suyi's words. However, since this advice was given by a powerful sword warrior, it must be correct. It seems that I will have to avoid the women of this world when I go on adventures next time. The next morning, after enjoying a sumptuous breakfast of royal quality, the brave warriors gathered together. My dear brave men, these are the people who are willing to assist you in your adventure as companions. The king, holding a scepter, stepped down from the throne and introduced himself to the brave men. In front of the 4 heroes, there were 12 young men and women wearing different adventurer costumes. Some of them were wearing knight armor and looked like nobles. Then the king walked up to Suyi and spoke very enthusiastically. Sword hero, which of the people would you like to choose to accompany you? Oh, I can choose it myself. Suyi raised his eyebrows. He remembered that the plot here should let the adventurers decide for themselves which hero to follow. Of course, a brave warrior as powerful as you, everyone wants to go on adventures with you. The king stroked his beard and looked at the adventurers in front of him. In order to avoid any disputes, let's just let you choose it yourself. It seems that the decision to show off muscles was correct. This is the treatment a brave man deserves. In this case, let's test the king's flexibility. Your Majesty, I don't know much about this world. Do you have any recommendations? Would you like me to recommend one? There was a gleam in the king's eyes, as if he was waiting for these words. Sword hero has really posed a difficult problem. If it is the most excellent choice, I recommend her as your companion. As he spoke, the king brought a girl with wine-red hair to Suyi. The girl has a very tall and mature figure, and a very pretty and decent appearance. She is a beauty that makes people turn their heads on the street. This is Miss Main Sophia. She is very young and can use intermediate fire magic. She has very good combat power. After a pause, the king looked at the red-haired girl meaningfully. After hearing about your great strength, she admired you very much and wanted to follow you on your adventure. Sword hero, what do you think? Haha, it seems like the old guy still won't give up. Suyi looked at the girl in front of him calmly. Noticing his gaze, Mian seemed a little shy, with an alluring blush on her pretty face. If Suyi didn't know the true face of this woman, he would probably be deceived by her sweet appearance. Just choose her. The corners of Suyi's mouth rose slightly. She's the only one I need. Hehe. As long as you are satisfied, sword hero. Seeing that Suyi 320 had indeed chosen Main, Melamag too also showed a satisfied smile. There was also a different light shining in Main's eyes. Very good, all 3 of them have a bright future. Because Suyi made his choice in advance. The remaining 11 carefully selected elite adventurers and 3 other brave men formed a team. Among them, there are 5 brave men with spears, 5 brave men with bows, and 1 brave man of all weapons. Isn't this a little unfair? Iwaya Naofumi looked at the spear hero who was surrounded by female adventurers, and said to the king with some indignation. My only weapon is a shield, how can I improve my strength? The only one willing to assist him was a bald middle-aged adventurer. It seemed that the teams of the other 2 heroes were too full to accommodate anyone, so they had to choose to go with him. After all, in this country, the shield hero is regarded as a symbol of devil and ominous. This requires the shield hero to think of a solution himself. The king replied rather coldly. Even the sword hero only has 1 follower, do you want more? DB. Naofumi Iwaya glanced at Mian who was standing next to Suyi, and was speechless. My strength compared to the sword hero, can it be the same? It's okay even if he doesn't bring anyone with him, right? Well, this is the support money I prepared for you brave warriors. Please make good use of it. At the king's order, the servants came up to the brave man with a tray containing money bags. As the footsteps moved, a crisp, swish, sound could be heard from the tray from time to time. It looks like it contains real gold and silver coins. Each brave hero will receive 600 silver coins in support. Because the sword hero and the shield hero each have only 1 follower, an additional 400 silver coins will be given. You can use this money to buy equipment and adventure supplies in the capital. Please embark on your journey, the next, Black Tide, will come in a month. Please improve yourselves and help the kingdom of Melamag survive this disaster. Yes. As the saying goes, those who eat from others are the shortest-tempered, and those who take from others are the softest-handed. The other 3 heroes who received the support money shouted excitedly. Suyi looked at the purse in his hand thoughtfully. It can actually be identified as the currency in Terraria. Interesting. Question mark. Chapter 85 Buying Slaves. Wait, what the hell is Setsuna? My dear hero, are we leaving the city now? After leaving the palace, Suyi took Mai Yin through the city gate and came to the outskirts of the royal city. Although there is a stone road running through the grassland, the green grass almost covers the view. It gives people the illusion that they will lose their way once they deviate from the road. I thought you would go to the city's blacksmith shop first and pick out some fine equipment. I don't need it. Suyi snapped his fingers casually, and in the blink of an eye, a set of armor as bright red as lava appeared on his body. The lava armor, forged from hellstone ingots, is Suyi's highest defense armor besides the soft shell suit. In situations where there is no need to face strong enemies and where agility is not required, Suyi would choose to wear this armor instead of the soft shell suit, which reduces his movement speed. The outstanding appearance of the lava armor made the eyes of Main, a fire mage, light up. I can feel the surging fire element from this armor. Brave man, is this magic armor? Magic armor, I guess. Although I don't know what the standard for magic armor is in this world. If it means, with additional effects, all the armor created by Suyi should be included in this list. I've never seen magic armor before. With excitement shining in her eyes, Mai Yin said coquettishly while gently pressing her chest against Suyi's arm. Can you take it off so I can have a good look at this armor, my brave hero? Oh, as the first princess of Melamag, you have never seen magic armor. Suyi's answer made Mai Yin's body and facial expression become stiff. She suppressed her inner shock and panic, and tried hard to show a hint of doubt. Sword hero, what are you talking about? How could I be a princess? Maddie Sophia Melomag. With every syllable uttered, Suyi saw the red-haired girl's face turn even paler. As a member of the royal family, he takes pleasure in framing others, and he also embezzles national treasury funds to live an extravagant life. After being discovered by the queen, she refused to repent. In order to avoid marrying the pig-headed king, she had to assist the brave man to avoid punishment. Were you just thinking about stealing my armor and selling it for money? As the first princess, you deserve what you have done to become like this. A ball of fire hit Suyi's face. The first princess, whose identity and thoughts were obviously exposed, was furious and launched an attack magic on him. Suyi sprinted forward and rushed out of the explosion range of the spell amid the scattered fireworks. I saw that Mai Yin, who was just in front of me, had now run more than 10 meters away. He used magic to feint, but he was actually taking the opportunity to escape. This woman is quite thoughtful. Unfortunately, it is of no use to Suyi, the Shadow King. He deliberately took the woman out of the city to prevent this situation from happening. Bring her back. The Shadow Skeleton King instantly appeared behind Suyi and swung his huge arms towards Mai Yin. A moment later, the Skeleton King came to Suyi, holding Mai Yin's hair as if he had grabbed a mouse by the tail. Let me go. In pain, Mai Yin gradually revealed a painful, crazy and ferocious expression. Since you know I'm the first princess, you still dare to abuse me. When I return to the royal city, I will report your crimes against me to my father. You will have that chance. Suyi grinned and reached out to press Mai Yin's face hard. But after signing the contract, varied. This is one of the few times that Suyi used coercion to sign a contract. This seemed to be somewhat inconsistent with his current status as a brave warrior, but he had to do it. Otherwise, simply killing the first princess is also an option. In a sense, Main can be said to be the #1 villain in this world. In the early stage, he framed the male protagonist Naofumi Iwaya, instigated the gun hero, and deceived the king and the nobles. In order to seize power and succeed to the throne, he even wanted to kill his own sister. Later, he killed his own mother and betrayed the organization behind the Black Tide natural disaster. This woman is simply the #1 troublemaker in the Shield Hero series. If I don't press her to death right now, who knows what reasons will be revealed later. Taking Mai Yin as one's own can be considered a significant contribution to world peace. After all, this is a crazy woman who will jump against humanity. After a few seconds, Suyi slowly retracted his arm, allowing the Skeleton King to release his control over mine. The first princess, who had been so arrogant just now, lowered her head weakly, her whole body trembling. Look up. Su Yi's order made her raise her pale face. What should you call me now? Master, master. Very good. Su Yi nodded with satisfaction. I never thought the title would be so comforting. According to the results of the appraisal, Main does not have any contract skills. Of all the things in my body, only my appearance is presentable. As for his inner character, it is really terrible. If it's not disciplined, even Su Yi will dislike it. It seems that I need to find a professional to exchange ideas. Thinking of this, Su Yi glanced at Mai Yin, who was looking at him with fear. You should know where there are slave traders in the royal city, right? Take me to him. Slaves, and a complete slave industry chain still exist in this world. Because in addition to humans, there are various sub-human races and beastman races. Even before the arrival of the Black Tide, countries would attack each other and start wars because of differences in race and beliefs. After the disaster struck, villages and towns in peaceful areas were inevitably destroyed. The displaced refugees either voluntarily or were forced to fall into the hands of slave traders and were branded with the slave pattern that carried a cursed effect. This curse made the slaves not to disobey the master's orders, otherwise they would be severely punished, even enough to be killed. Are you looking for me? After Mai Yin took Su Yi to stroll in the alleys of the royal city for several hours. A strange man wearing a top hat and a tuxedo suddenly appeared in front of Su Yi. Su Yi looked at the other person's clothes and couldn't help but complain. 014603124 Philu 172,273,431. Does this kind of clothing combination apply to all perverted professions like yours? The tuxedoed stranger in front of him reminded him of a fatter version of Hiriko Yingyan. Haha, the guest is really humorous. The weirdo pushed his glasses up his nose without feeling angry. I am a slave trader. Do you need new slaves, or? As he spoke, the strange man turned his gaze towards Main and said something that frightened the latter greatly. Would you like to sell this young girl beside you to me? Oh, there is such an option. Su Yi touched his chin with interest. How much do you think she'd sell for? It depends on whether she has the ability to fight. From what I know, she can cast intermediate fire spells. Well, this is a plus. If it is a female slave, her origin and sexual experience are also very important information. Her identity is not ordinary. Su Yi glanced at Mai Yin and found that she was frantically signaling to him with a pleading look. It seems that she doesn't want her identity as the first princess to be exposed at this time. Just think of yourself as the daughter of some noble family. As for the following question, mine, are you a virgin? The first princess bit her lip and nodded her head several times in humiliation. Tisk, 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 that's a little beyond my expectations. Su Yi raised his eyebrows, somewhat surprised. It seems that this girl is not only a scumbag, but also a Pua master. The slave trader nearby made some calculations and quoted a price. A human girl with a clean body and decent appearance, and with a noble background and the identity of an intermediate fire magician, should be able to be sold for 10 gold coins. More than that. Hehe, this is the purchase price, please understand. The slave trader said with a smile. And you don't really want to sell it to me? That's right. Su Yi nodded and took out a heavy purse. Show me your goods. Hearing the sound of gold and silver coins colliding, the slave trader suddenly perked up and made a, please, gesture. PLZ, follow me. Along the intricate alleys, the slave trader brought Su Yi into a circus tent. Deep inside the tent, there is a spiral staircase leading underground. Please look, this is the slave that our store recommends most. In the underground space that looked like a prison, the slave trader proudly recommended his goods to Su Yi. In the cage was a creature that looked like a human, but whose skin was covered with wild animal fur and had sharp teeth and claws. Is this a werewolf? To be precise, it's a wolf orc. The slave trader corrected. In the common speech, werewolf refers to wolf men in most contexts. Demahumans have a similar appearance to humans, but some parts of their bodies are different from humans. Orcs are subhumans with a high degree of animalization. Please be careful to distinguish them. I see. Su Yi didn't expect that visiting a slave market could provide him with scientific knowledge. How much does it cost? 15 gold coins. The slave trader easily said a number that sounded very expensive. This price can almost buy 1.5 mines. Su Yi glanced at the wolf orc slaves who were bound by heavy chains. Battle slave, LV 75, race werewolf. A level 75 combat slave, no wonder it's so expensive. He doesn't look very healthy. Since she had no intention of buying it anyway, Suyi commented casually. Yes, he was originally a slave who fought in the arena. Later, he was accidentally injured in his hands and feet, so he was sent to me. Are there any other slaves? In response to Suyi's question, the slave trader rubbed his hands in embarrassment. You have seen my best products. What type of slave do you prefer? Suyi thought for a moment, and suddenly pulled Mai Yin, who had been trying hard to eliminate her presence, in front of him. Someone like her, understand. A look of sudden realization appeared on the slave trader's face. You mean you need a beautiful, young woman with a clean body, a certain fighting ability, and a noble family. The last one can be removed. Suyi waved his hand. I don't mind if it's human or subhuman. You have quite a wide range of interests. Look, there it is. The slave trader quickly flipped through the pages of the list in his hand and finally found the goods that met his requirements. You are so lucky, sir. Today, a batch of subhuman slaves were transported from the free city of Linerita. I heard that they were new slaves who lost their homes due to war and disaster and were eventually captured by the slave-catching team. Quote. Hash pound. Suyi frowned, feeling that the name, Free City Lalitana, sounded familiar. Is there such a place in the world of Shield Hero? Well, this way please. The two were taken to the deepest part of the prison and came to the cage where the newcomers were held. These two are the slaves who barely meet the requirements of the guests. But in a sense, they are also defective. There were two cages in front of him where he was pointing. The first cage contained a skinny little girl with a fearful look in her eyes, shivering and coughing, with a pair of round ears and a thick tail. Because she's a not very likable raccoon demihuman, you can take her away for only 30 silver coins. The slave trader was introducing these goods on the side. If it's a fox man, there will be people willing to buy it at a high price even if it has physical defects. Raccoon, that's her. Although he had recognized the other party's identity, Suyi was not completely sure until he heard the slave trader's introduction. The little demihuman girl in front of him, who was so thin that she was almost skin and bones, was the heroine of the Shield Hero, Raftalia. Her hometown was destroyed by the Black Tide, her parents died in the disaster, and the young girl ended up in the hands of slave traders. Its defining characteristic is its identity as a raccoon. And in another cage, this is a relatively rare, ice wolf, demi-human. If it weren't for its terminal illness and extremely violent personality, its price could be increased tenfold. The slave trader saw that Suyi's expression became a little strange, and thought that he had something wrong with the goods, so he quickly added. Now you only need 1 gold coin to take her home. Although her lifespan is short, it is enough for you to enjoy her carefully. I want them all. Suyi didn't wait for him to finish his words and threw him 2 gold coins. Then, he walked up to the ice wolf girl who had a fierce look on her face due to her illness. Say your name. The demihuman girl with ice blue hair and eyebrows glared at him fiercely. If you can satisfy me, I will help you get revenge. Kill the trappers who raided your homeland, and the humans who massacred your own kind. Suyi's words made the ice wolf girl's eyes widen instantly, and her icy blue eyes stared at the boy in front of her. Quote. My name is Setsuna. Hearing this name, Suyi finally couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth a few times. He turned around and grabbed Mai Yin's collar. Is there a kingdom called Joler on this continent? What are you talking about? Although Mai Yin was puzzled, she still answered honestly. The kingdom of Jorar is right next to our kingdom, and is a neighboring country of the kingdom of Melamag. 17. Quote. Suyi let go of his hand and looked around, his eyes sweeping over the slave trader, the snow wolf girl, the raccoon subhuman girl, and Mai Yin. It seems that this is not just the world of Shield Hero. It is a different world of Sozoman, formed by the fusion of multiple works. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 86. So, Setsuna grasped the future. After declining the slave trader's offer to engrave the slave pattern for free, Suyi left the alley with Lav and Setsuna who had signed the contract. With a contract to guarantee loyalty, Suyi doesn't need the means of slave tattoos. Quote. Quote. Hearing the cough coming from beside him, Suyi couldn't help but frown. There is a reason why the slave trader sold the 2 subhuman slave girls at such a low price. That is, they all have defects or diseases to a greater or lesser extent. Love has been malnourished for a long time and is extremely weak. And because she witnessed the disaster caused by the Kuroshio, she would panic and cry every night. Shanna was infected with some incurable disease and could only wait in pain for the disease to worsen and eventually lead to his death. Main, give them treatment. After assigning Mai Yin the function of nurse, Su Yi gave her orders. What? You actually asked me to serve these two subhuman slaves? Just as Mai Yin was about to refuse, she saw Su Yi looking at her with a cold gaze, so she had no choice but to nod quickly. Feeling humiliated, Main reluctantly approached the coughing lab. The Kingdom of Melamag is a human supremacist country that treats demihumans and beastmen very badly. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many subhuman slaves in the slave market. Terraria's healing function is immediate and extremely effective. A special effect of red hearts appeared on Love's body, and the little girl with raccoon ears looked much better immediately. But her body is still very weak and she can only recover by adequate nutrition. Su Yi took out a few fruits from the inventory, peeled them and handed them over. Eat your fill first, I'll take you to eat something delicious later. Lav timidly took the fragrant 747 fruit and took a careful bite. Then he couldn't stop and started to nibble on the fruit flesh as if he hadn't eaten for a long time. Meanwhile, Setsuna also completed her treatment, but her condition was much better than Raf's. After all, she is already an adult subhuman, and has a certain level foundation, and her physical fitness is far superior to that of the young Raf. My body feels much lighter and the pain is gone. Shanda stretched his limbs in surprise. His body, which had been suffering from illness for a long time, felt so comfortable at this moment. If she hadn't experienced today, she would probably only live for another month or two at most. They would either die in a dark cage or be killed by the backlash of the slave marks after bumping into customers who were buying slaves. Speaking of slave tattoos, Setsuna glanced down at his chest. Although he was not cursed, he could not think of resisting the human boy in front of him. While Setsuna was observing her new master, Su Yi was also observing them. According to the results of identification, both Lav and Setsuna have contract skills. This was undoubtedly a surprise for Su Yi. Contract skill, Harmony of Light and Darkness Raftalia. Plus double the amount of Soul of Light, dropped when defeated. Plus double the amount of Shadow's Soul, dropped when defeated. Raf's contract skill doubles the drop amount of two special materials, Soul of Light and Soul of Shadow. This contract skill can only be activated after defeating the Wall of Flesh and entering hard mode. Because by then, the world of Terraria will be affected by the power of light and shadow after the seal is lifted, and earth-shaking changes will occur. These two types of soul materials have a wide range of uses. Not only can they be used to make weapons and accessories. It can also be used to make angel wings and demon wings, as well as summoning props to summon mechanical bosses. In addition, you can also make it into a light key or a night light key to manually generate treasure chest monsters. It can be said that as long as there is an endless supply of souls, you can make a fortune by spawning treasure chest monsters endlessly. The financial resources of the Meat Queen are now guaranteed. Su Yi happily rubbed Lav's brown hair, and as expected, she felt some oil on her hands. Anyway, go wash your bodies first. After bringing the three people back to Terraria, Su Yi pointed to the bathroom in the base and said, "The bottles and jars on the shelf are bath products for cleaning your body and hair. Never mind, I'll teach you how to use them." Considering that these people from another world don't even know what chemical substances like shower gel and conditioner are. Su Yi had to personally take on the role of a bath scrubber and help Lav and Setsuna take a bath. As for Mayan, let her play by herself, she is not dirty anyway. Shayna squatted in the bathtub, her fair face looked like she had a fever, and she hugged her knees and let Su Yi rub her back. Don't swing your tail around, the place you just wiped is splashing water again. It was the first time for Su Yi to bathe a werewolf subhuman, and it was even more troublesome than taking care of a child. Speaking of which, if we only look at the habits of the Ice Wolf clan, they seem to be more similar to huskies. In addition, Setsuna's contracted skills are very simple and are almost bound to the ice and snow environment. Contract skill Ice Wolf Courage. Plus greatly improved attributes in the ice and snow biome. Plus get extra drops when defeating monsters in the ice biome. Plus get extra catch when fishing in the ice biome. As a member of the Ice Wolf tribe, Setsuna has a good enhancement in the ice and snow biome. But why can't fishing also get extra catches? Could she be fishing? Oh, it seems she can. It's just a way of fishing without a fishing rod. And when fishing, it seemed that a popular multiplayer melee scene took place. Yes, At this moment, Setsuna shook his ears, turned his head and whispered. You said before that you would help me avenge the people in my village who were killed. Is that true? Certainly, Suyi said without hesitation. As a brave man, I will not allow this to happen before my eyes. I know that the people who attacked your village were actually soldiers from the kingdom of Jorah disguised as mercenaries. Next they will use the same method to attack more innocent Ice Wolf villages. What? After hearing the information Suyi said, the Ice Wolf girl excitedly stood up from the bathtub. Where are you going? This is not your world. Suyi comforted him while admiring the scenery in front of him. Since I promised to avenge you, I will definitely do it. But you also have to be obedient, at least not be as impulsive as you are now. I understand. Shanna gradually calmed down, and after realizing his current state, he hurriedly grabbed the bath towel and wrapped it around himself. But Setsuna also wants to complete his revenge himself. However, Setsuna's level has reached its limit and cannot be further improved. That's why Setsuna was defeated, and became a slave. Master, Setsuna, I want to become stronger. Everyone in this world has a system similar to an attribute panel. But this does not mean that everyone can be like a hero, who can level up by continuing to take risks. There is an upper limit to the level of mortals and ordinary people. Depending on one's talent and qualifications, one might never be able to break through the level limit in one's entire life. But there is only one way to break through the boundaries simply and effectively. That is, having S*X with the brave. Descendants with the blood of the brave will have amazing talents. As the companion of a brave man, he can naturally receive blessings. Whether forced or voluntary, active or passive. As long as you can complete the reproduction ritual, you will gain the power to break through the boundaries. This is also the reason why after the kingdom of Melamag summons a hero, there are people who are willing to follow the hero. After all, in this rule, gender is not particularly rigid. Oh, you should know that I'm the sword hero, right? Suyi also stood up and looked down at the Ice Wolf girl, whose height, including her ears, only reached his chest. Quote. Setsuna slowly took off the bath towel he had just wrapped himself in, and his ears began to shake. Please, master, please raise my level cap. I want to get my revenge myself. That depends on your determination. So, Setsuna grasped the future. In the square of the capital of the kingdom of Melamag, in a building that looks like a clock tower. The huge hourglass with blood-red sand flowing through it is about to complete a cycle. If a brave man, holding a holy weapon is nearby, he will be able to see a bright red countdown. 7 hours 20 minutes and 12 seconds. 7 more days. The old king is looking at the hourglass from the royal castle. A red countdown also flowed in his vision. This means that he is also a hero, or used to be. This time the Kurotide is faster than expected. I hope the brave warriors this time can withstand the impact of the disaster. However, with that person here this time, it should be easy. The only problem is, how should I deal with the anger of neighboring countries caused by using all the 4 holy warriors for my own use? Chapter 87, Like Death Falling from the Sky. There are only 2 days left until the arrival of Kuroshio. A lawless area where the borders of the kingdom of Melamag and the kingdom of Jorah intersect. Since both countries believe in human supremacy, they treat alien races such as subhumans and orcs very harshly. Therefore, the subhuman races that originally lived in the 2 countries had to migrate to the bitter and cold border area. The ice wolves are one of the subhuman races that are more adapted to cold regions. Relying on their advantage in ice and snow talents, they gradually branched out and established many settlements. However, recently, a group of mercenaries have been appearing on the border, invading and slaughtering one ice wolf village after another. Judging from their sophisticated equipment and strict discipline, they are definitely not ordinary mercenaries. In fact, they are all the royal soldiers of the kingdom of Jorah. They were just robbing demihuman villages under the guise of mercenaries and selling them to slave traders to make money. After nightfall, it is time for them to do evil. Outside a closed-gated ice wolf village, more than 100 well-equipped soldiers were ready to go. Because of the success of previous times, they are also full of confidence in today's action. Hey, did you think you could get away with it by closing the door? The leading commander sneered as he looked at the ice wolf village that had closed its doors to visitors. I'll let you guys come out later, pass the order, put out the bait. Accompanied by painful whimpers and cries, a group of wolves were driven to kneel on the open space outside the village. The helpless cries of the children and the sobbing of the women continued to stir the nerves of the Ice Wolf warriors. Let's have something more exciting. The commander walked behind a young Ice Wolf child and raised the saber in his hand with a grim smile. Bang! The gate of the village was finally broken open from the inside by the angry warriors, who charged towards the group of mercenaries, waving their weapons. As expected, he was attacked by a rain of arrows. Use the captives to lure out the Ice Wolf warriors trapped in the village. Then use long-range attacks to kill all these living forces. After several massacres, these soldiers from the kingdom of Jorar have mastered the common tactics of the slave-catching team. If nothing goes wrong, they will also harvest a batch of rare Ice Wolf subhuman slaves today. Su Yi is the accident. Black worms burst from beneath the hard frozen tundra. Not only did it block all the arrows, it also stopped the Ice Wolf warriors from committing suicide. If Su Yi hadn't warned them in advance, the Shadow Devourer alone would have been enough to wipe out the group of frightened soldiers in front of him. Setsuna, the time for revenge has come. Su Yi, who was on the high slope, gently patted the wolf-eared girl on the head. Leave the miscellaneous soldiers to you, and leave the commander who looks capable to me. Yes, master. The next moment, two figures fell from the sky and plunged into the crowd like the god of death. Quote. I will make you buried with them. The girl who was usually as docile as a wolf cub in Su Yi's arms, now showed her extremely cruel and bloodthirsty side. The fighting instinct hidden in the subhuman bloodline was fully aroused, just to tear these murderers who slaughtered their people into pieces. Born into the strongest warrior family of the Ice Wolf clan, Setsuna was inherently stronger than any other member of the same generation. Not only does he have an overwhelmingly high talent value, he also possesses a unique, ice claw, skill and a natural combat instinct. Although due to the limitation of her level, her strength could not advance even half a step. But with Su Yi's help, Setsuna is now even more powerful than before. The smell of blood permeated the icy and snowy borderland. From time to time, the wails and screams of his men could be heard around him, but the commander of this operation did not dare to move a single step. It seemed that if he was distracted for even a moment, the man walking towards him would pierce his heart with a sword. Condensed aura, battle-hardened fighting spirit, strong body. Su Yi took out the holy sword and made a leisurely evaluation. If you didn't come out to do this kind of dirty work, you would be a good sparring partner. But now, it can only be a touchstone. Who are you? The commander calmly raised his saber, ready to fight to the death with the enemy. The brave warrior who wields the holy weapon of the sword. Su Yi chuckled and said his name without hesitation. Today I will use the holy sword in my hand to kill you villains who slaughtered innocent subhuman tribes. Sword hero. It's the 4 holy heroes from Melamag, damn it. When the commander heard Su Yi introduce himself, his expression finally changed. The kingdom of Jorar to which he belongs also has a sword hero. However, he is not a brave warrior from another world who possesses a holy weapon, but a local brave warrior. In addition to having stronger talents than ordinary people and being a brave man, they are totally inferior to the 4 holy warriors, holding holy weapons. Originally, the 4 holy warriors were summoned by countries around the world to resist the attack of the Black Tide. However, the king of Melamag used some trick. He actually summoned all 4 of the 4 holy warriors to his country at once. This made other countries, including the kingdom of Jorar, furious. Even the queen of the kingdom of Melamag had no choice but to run around to calm the anger. After knowing that he was facing the sword hero, one of the 4 holy heroes, the commander also understood that he would not be able to see the sun the next day. Then let's fight. Today I want to see what the legendary 4 holy warriors are capable of. The commander roared, and while trying to give himself courage, he launched a swift attack towards Su Yi. However, the latter lightly waved the weapon in his hand, and the holy sword suddenly swung out like a whip, hitting the commander directly on the chest. Environmental tuning, the caress of the forest demon. The holy sword in Su Yi's hand has been fed to the orange rarity by him using various props. Not only that, after copying the incomplete environmental blade, Su Yi discovered that the holy sword can store all the environmental tuning. The original flawed environmental blade can only use one type of environmental tuning and store one type at most, and can be switched when needed. But the battle situation changes rapidly, and the 2 environmental adjustments are obviously unable to cover the entire situation. The appearance of the holy sword allows Suyi to use all 5 types of environmental tuning. Is this the power of the holy weapon? The commander felt a sharp pain in his chest as if he was hit by a huge hammer, and his body flew out. The caress of the forest demon can transform the sword blade into a vine whip. Being hit by the blade at the end of the whip will definitely result in a critical hit. The commander who fell to the ground reacted quickly, picked up a shield from the ground and held it in front of him. But a pure sword-shaped air blade flew out of nowhere and directly shattered his protective gear and shield. Environmental tuning, clear purity. A blade that is not in any environment can fire a pure barrage of bullets, dealing damage and applying the smash effect. Then Suyi raised his sword and leapt out like a bullet. The sword blade emitting purple-red light rushed towards the commander who was vomiting blood like a comet. Environmental tuning, resistance to decay. This is the ambient tuning that is only available in evil biomes. When holding a weapon tuned this way, you can quickly charge along with the blade. At the moment of being hit, it can absorb health points and bounce itself away, then charge again. But Suyi no longer had any reason to continue fighting. Because his enemy had already fallen in the previous blow. Stand up. Suyi glanced at the commander whose chest was pierced by the holy sword and said indifferently. The blue soul flame suddenly leapt from the commander's eyes, and a dark shadowy body broke away from the corpse and stood in front of Suyi. Behind him, the soldiers of the Jorar kingdom who were killed in an instant also returned to the battlefield one after another in the form of shadows, and lined up behind the commander. Together with your soldiers, continue to fight to atone for your sins. You will devote yourself to fighting against the monsters emerging from the black tide. This is your only way to atone for your sins. Rows of faceless shadow soldiers kneeled down before the sword hero. Then it disappeared into the bloody night. Sensing the footsteps behind her, the ice wolf girl with blood on her claws slowly turned around and spoke in a trembling voice. I did it. I avenged my father and mother. Yes, you did. Suyi patted the back of the crying ice wolf girl, and looked forward past the 2 trembling wolf ears. After the shadow devourer was recalled, the ice wolf warriors who were blocked behind appeared with confused looks on their faces. Chapter 88 The First Immigrants to the New World. So it's Setsuna. I heard about your parents' situation. I'm so sorry. After being invited to the Ice Wolf tribe's village, the village leader recognized Setsuna's identity. These damned kingdom soldiers only dared to send a small team of a few people to poach before. I didn't expect that he would become so arrogant in the past 2 years. If it weren't for the sword hero's intervention this time, I'm afraid we would have made the same mistake again. As he spoke, the sturdy ice wolf man named Norn patted the table and walked in from the door to a row of ice wolf people holding trays. The ice wolf tribe is good at hunting. These are rare materials harvested from monsters on the border. Please accept them, brave hero. Suyi wanted to refuse, but after scanning it with Identify, he found that there was actually snow monster fur material in it. This material can also be obtained by killing the snow monster in Terraria. However, because snow monsters only spawn in ice and snow biomes, they are relatively difficult to find, and Suyi has not encountered many so far. The props needed to summon the snowfield boss, Cyclops deer, need to be made with this material. I just need the pelt of this monster. If you have extra, you can replace all other materials with this. In this way, Suyi doesn't have to go into the snow and ice to wait for the snow monsters to refresh. After returning to 077, today, I can immediately summon the Cyclops deer, and use it several times. The fur of the little snow monster. Are you sure you only want this, brave man? Norn was a little surprised, because the fur of the little snow monster was not very rare. It is usually only used to make warm clothes and cannot be made into protective gear with magical powers. I have my own uses. Suyi smiled without further explanation. Norn was also very tactful and did not continue to ask questions. Instead, he asked his tribesmen to turn out all the Yeti furs in stock. There are more than 100 copies in total. This is enough to make the world dark. Looking at the 3-digit material props in the inventory, Suyi was very satisfied. To make a Luhua, you only need 3 snow monster furs, 5 magic ores and a lens. Demon ore and lens are both very easy to obtain materials, at least for Suyi now. With his current basic abilities, even without any equipment, he could fight the Eye of Cthulhu alone with just a wooden sword. Lenses are materials dropped by eyeball monsters at night, although Suyi did not deliberately farm them. But over time, I accumulated a lot of them, and this thing has no other use anyway. After receiving the thank you gift from the Ice Wolf tribe, Suyi accepted the invitation from the village chief and attended the evening banquet. The Ice Wolf tribe sub-people who escaped the attack of the kingdom soldiers were enjoying their life by the campfire. The young and beautiful Ice Wolf girls, under Setsuna's eager gaze, gave hugs and deep kisses to the brave man who saved them. A powerful, young and handsome human warrior, and the hero who saved them from danger. If it wasn't time to go to sleep yet, these passionate and bold girls might have gone straight into Suyi's tent, just to seek his favor. After all, this is good for them too. Master, Setsuna wants it too. Seeing so many sisters of the same clan returning home happily, Shanna twisted her legs gently, unable to contain herself. We'll have plenty of time when we get back. Suyi touched Setsuna's head and stroked the Ice Wolf girl's furry ears. The furry ears felt so good that he couldn't help but stroke them a few more times. Hehehe, it seems that the girls in the tribe really admire the hero. Norn came over and seemed to have something to say. After these kingdom soldiers disappeared, the kingdom of Jorar will definitely not accept this and will definitely send troops to search for them. My dear brave man, are you willing to accept the commission to escort the village to migrate? Hearing the village chief's words, Setsuna interrupted with some surprise. Uncle Norn, are you leaving the country? Yes. This place is no longer suitable for us to survive. The sturdy man from the Ice Wolf tribe sighed, and his face was full of vicissitudes. Both the Melamag kingdom and the Jorar kingdom are extremely hostile to our subhuman race. Coupled with the recent rampant slave hunting teams, our tribesmen have been captured and sold into slavery. Even for the future of the younger generation, I have to make this decision. Shanshan's ears drooped, and he seemed a little sad and reluctant. After the Ice Wolf tribe migrated, she had no way of finding them even if she wanted to reunite with them. Which direction are you going to migrate? Suyi suddenly asked. Away from these two kingdoms, there aren't many options left, right? Yes, but we didn't have a choice. Norn smiled wryly and nodded. I heard that the neutral city of Branica in the south is very tolerant of subhuman races, and even the demons can live in harmony. I plan to take my people there to take a look. Branica. Suyi frowned, recalling some rather weird plots. I suggest you change places. According to the intelligence I received, the kingdom of Jorar is preparing to attack this neutral city. What? Upon hearing the news, the Ice Wolf tribe man showed an expression of disbelief on his face. Sir Brave, are you sure this news is true? If nothing unexpected happens, after this, Black Tide, is over, they will launch an expedition. Damned kingdom of Jorar. Norn looked embarrassed and could only clench his fists weakly. Are you really going to exterminate all of us demi-humans? Seeing Norn's lost look, Shanda felt a little bit sorry for him and gently tugged at Suyi's sleeve. The latter nodded to her, indicating that she need not worry. For Setsuna's sake, I can give you a choice and a destination. Suyi thought for a moment, then said to the village chief. I swear this in the name of the sword hero. If the Ice Wolf tribe is willing to submit to me, I can sign a contract with you and give you a piece of ice and snow paradise far away from war. There you will have an endless supply of food, will not be tortured by disability or injury, and will not have to worry about the threat of death. Hearing the word, surrender, the wolf man was a little annoyed. Even for a brave man, it would be too presumptuous to want to make them surrender. But after hearing the following conditions, Norn immediately threw the pride of the Ice Wolf tribe behind his mind. Unlimited food. A paradise without injury, illness, or even death. And no war. Sword hero, is this true? Setsuna is the first Ice Wolf to sign a contract with me. Suyi said lightly. She has seen the places I'm talking about. Well, what the hero said is absolutely correct. Setsuna nodded in cooperation. That is a completely new world. There is no Melamag kingdom, nor the Jorar kingdom. There is only the brave man and his people. Of course, there are also endless monsters to kill. Suyi added, then thought of something and suddenly laughed. I'm going to go on a hunt next, on the ice field nearby. If you are interested, you can bring your tribesmen over to watch. It won't be too late to decide whether to sign a contract with me then. After leaving the village, Shwana couldn't help but ask Suyi. Master, are you really willing to accept the Ice Wolf people into your world? To be precise, it's not the world you and I have been to. Suyi pointed out an error in Setsuna's question. Soon, I will create a new Terraria world to distinguish it from the original one. The old world will become a battlefield where I will constantly challenge powerful enemies, and the new world will also need manpower to explore. Since your people are suffering, why not let them become the first people of the new world? Of course, provided they are willing to pledge their loyalty to me. Because after defeating Terraria's wall of flesh and blood, boss, the whole world will usher in great changes. 014603124 Philu 172,283,331. Whether it is the sky, the surface, the underground or even hell, it will be affected. So Su Yi needs to keep a backup plan. The world expansion slot obtained when defeating the wall of flesh and blood does not intend to cross over to an existing world. Instead, we created a brand new Terraria like a newborn baby. Su Yi kept the original world for himself to explore and develop. The new world, it's better to let his contractors explore it on their own. After the Holy Emperor's artificial floating island is built, he can also enclose an area for the cursed children. As for the Ice Wolf tribe, they are just perfect for survival in the ice and snow biome. It just depends on whether they are willing to come. If Uncle Norn saw how wealthy Terraria is, he would definitely ask the master to sign a contract. Shanna had no doubt about this, but was rather worried that his people would not be able to seize this opportunity. Master 3.3 just said he wants to go hunting. Are there any monsters worth hunting nearby? If there isn't one, why not just summon one yourself? Su Yi's figure suddenly disappeared, and teleported back a few minutes later, holding a finished, Luwa, prop in his hand. This prop looks like a one-eyed deer-headed doll. Luwa blue used in an ice and snow environment to summon a Cyclops deer. Let me try to summon the Terraria boss in another world. Although the Queen Bee has been summoned in the Black Bullet world before. But that is an environment covered by Terraria's biome after all. With the idea of giving it a try, Su Yi directly used up the Luwa in his hand. I saw dark beams of light blooming from the inside of the one-eyed deer-headed doll, which were somewhat similar to the power of the Shadow Monarch, possessed by Su Yi. I almost forgot that this guy also has abilities similar to Shadow. But since this has appeared, it means. Su Yi watched the overflowing shadows expand, and an excited look appeared on his face. The next moment, a huge monster several stories high appeared quietly in the snowstorm. It can be summoned after all, the one-eyed giant deer. Chapter 89, Money is Power. The first appearance of the thief profession. A snowstorm is coming. It's not even winter yet, how come there's such a big snowstorm? There seems to be some movement behind the village. Oh my god, what is that? The noise made by the appearance of the one-eyed giant deer made the Ice Wolf villagers, who were just immersed in the banquet, nervous. They have been hiding for so long that even the strongest hunters are treading on thin ice. Don't panic, this is the hero hunting. Norn roared and calmed the tribesmen down as the village chief. He led several experienced hunters to a high place and found that Setsuna was also there, looking at the battle in the distance. Uncle Norn, you are here. Setsuna shook his ears and turned to look at his people. Are you still hesitating whether to agree to the conditions of the brave master? Shan Na, this is not just my business. Norn sighed, stood beside the Ice Wolf girl, and looked into the blizzard with her. I saw a giant one-eyed deer with thick fur covering its upper body and thin and slender black limbs, roaring continuously. It was seen that every time the Cyclops attacked, it could blow away large pieces of earth and rocks, and even manipulate its arms made of shadows to launch surprise attacks. The Ice Wolf clan's village chief couldn't help but speak. When did such a horrible monster appear on the border? If there were such a fierce and powerful enemy nearby, the hunters in the village should have discovered it long ago. This is not a monster from this world, but a powerful enemy summoned by the hero. Setsuna explained rather proudly. I think it's called Baoshi. Anyway, it's a very scary enemy. But after a successful hunt, you can also obtain rich treasures. Hearing this, Norn felt the warrior soul in his heart stirring. As the most powerful Ice Wolf warrior in the village, he, like other hunters, is eager to challenge strong enemies. There are many powerful enemies like this in that world. Setsuna added one more sentence, then after seeing the expression on Norn's face, he snickered and stopped talking. As a subhuman of the Ice Wolf clan, she naturally knew what her fellow tribesmen desired most. The comfort of being in a remote corner, isolated from the world, is attractive enough. But for the Ice Wolf tribe, hunting is not only a way to obtain food, but also a sport to challenge themselves. The battle continued, but Su Yi seemed to have never appeared. Here it is. Su Yi's slightly teasing voice came from above the one-eyed giant deer's head. The next moment, the huge deer seemed to have been hit hard and its body suddenly tilted to one side. Su Yi flapped his sky feather wings and looked down at the boss who had lost his balance but did not pursue him. His figure gradually faded into the night, and finally became invisible as if he had used an invisibility potion. This is not a benefit from potions, but the lurking of the thief profession. At this time, Su Yi is not equipped with soft shell armor, but the sky blue armor set of the thief class. The latent value effect can only be activated when equipping the thief class armor. The stealth value will recharge from 0, and when it reaches full value, it will become invisible like before, and the next thief attack will trigger the stealth attack effect. And the weapon in Su Yi's hand is not a holy sword, or any kind of weapon at all. If I must say, this is a special weapon exclusively for thieves. Thief's Cane. Thief's Cane orange. Plus deal 27 points of rogue damage. Plus steal enemy coins when hitting. Plus lurking attack has a chance to drop 1 to 3 extra gold coins. Plus the damage of the stealth attack increases according to the coins you have, up to 500%. After defeating Skeleton King, Su Yi unlocked the bandit function for himself. This weapon can be purchased from the bandit's shop for 25 gold. Its ability to steal money is secondary to Su Yi. The most important thing is that stealth attack damage increases by up to 500%. If the stealth attack triggers a critical hit, the final damage of the stealth attack can reach an astonishing 10 times. This is why Su Yi just knocked the Cyclops into a state of stiffness. The amount required to reach the 500% damage increase cap is 2 platinum coins, that's 200 gold coins. This is the real deal, money is power. The damage caused by this attack is estimated to be over 1,000, right? Su Yi estimated in his heart. His own ability values will also increase the damage, so it is impossible to force the understanding in the game to apply. But those few hits must have hurt a lot. Because after several stealth attacks, the Cyclops deer went into a frenzy. This means that its health is less than 50%. Roar. The embarrassed Cyclops let out a deafening roar and stomped heavily on the ground beneath its feet. Layers of ice spikes spread towards Su Yi like waves. At the same time, countless shadow arms gathered in the air and attacked Su Yi. The latter's figure disappeared again at this time, as if merging with the shadows in the night. Lurk. The Cyclops lost its target, and all its attacks landed on the empty ground, splashing up icy dust. The sound of a hook being ejected was heard in the air, but no one was seen. Unless you actively attack, the lurking state will not be interrupted. The next moment, Su Yi used his grappling claws to cling to the back of the Cyclops deer and slammed his cane hard. Bang! The powerful force smashed a dent on the back of the Cyclops deer, causing it to fall to the ground in pain, struggling and rolling. It always feels like something is missing. Su Yi didn't know what he was thinking of, and suddenly summoned out Yingyan the leech. Let me use your hat. Zizi Yingyan took off his hat in confusion, and Su Yi put it on his head. That's right. Su Yi reached out to adjust the brim of his hat, then walked to the dying Cyclops and tapped it lightly with his cane. The giant deer's head, whose entire face was almost covered by huge eyeballs, was directly pierced and exploded. The moment the Cyclops died, Su Yi used shadow extraction on its corpse. Perhaps it is the power of the shadow. This extraction process went very smoothly. 014603124 Philu 172,283,491. However, Su Yi did not summon it directly, but put it into his own shadow. Then, he turned around and looked up at the moment when she was high up, as well as the ice wolf hunters beside her, and leapt. Sky blue wings spread out behind him, carrying him in front of the onlookers. Mr. Brave, your bravery astounds us. Seeing Su Yi return, Nuo-en seemed to have made a decision and knelt down on one knee. If you can retain the Ice Wolf tribe's right to hunt such powerful enemies, I am willing to submit to you on behalf of the tribe members behind me. We will also offer you the most valuable part of the spoils obtained from each hunt. Hearing this, Yinyi couldn't help but look at Shan Na. This group of ice wolves were really just as she said, a group of fanatical warmongers. I didn't expect that the condition for their surrender was to have the right to challenge the boss. Even after challenging the boss, he would consciously pay tribute to the dropped items. Su Yi naturally would not refuse such a good thing and agreed immediately. I allow you to freely hunt powerful enemies in the hunting grounds of the New World. In this way, Setsuna can visit his fellow tribesmen in the new Terraria world at any time. However, the New World can only be created after Su Yi challenges the Wall of Flesh and Blood. So after signing contracts with all the members of the Ice Wolf village, Zhi Yi temporarily settled them in the snowfields of the old world. Anyway, there is an inventory and a piggy bank, so it is very convenient to move. As for the task of helping them get familiar with the new environment, Zhi Yi naturally handed it over to Setsuna, who was also a member of the Ice Wolf clan. After finishing these things, more than a day has passed. There are less than 12 hours left before the Kuroshio arrives. Chapter 90. The tide of disaster has arrived, the heroes desire to compete with each other. Nothing good dropped, you're a boss after all. On the way back to the royal city of Melamag, Zhi Yi looked through his previous gains. There's a lot of Cyclops loot, but most of it is just some useless little fashion junk. After all, it's just a joint boss, and the equipment it drops is not strong enough. But there is a good axe among them that can be used. Lucy Axe Green. Plus deal 27 melee damage. Plus provide 150% axe power. With up to 150% axe power, it is one of the best axe tools in Terraria. Although in the later period there are multifunctional tools that can replace pickaxes and axes. However, in the early and middle stages of difficult mode, this axe is enough. And it can talk. Hey, cut down some trees. Let's find a small forest and chop our way through it. Today's weather is perfect for cutting down trees. Cut, hehe. Zhi Yi threw the axe back into the inventory with disgust, feeling that this guy was a bit talkative. Fortunately, the first world was not Don't Starve but Terraria. If it was Don't Starve, Zhi Yi's initial goal would probably not be to challenge the boss to improve himself, but to consider how to survive first. Master, the royal city is almost here. Mine, who was sitting in front of the Shadow Queen Bee, suddenly said. Would you like to get off first? Your mount is a little too ostentatious. After a few days of education, Main's attitude became much docile than at the beginning. But this is only when facing Zhi Yi. Swagger, then just stay on the side. Zhi Yi patted the side of the Shadow Queen Bee and drove it to fly towards a corner of the royal city. The dragon-carved hourglass that can be used to observe the arrival time of the Black Tide is in the clock tower in the corner of the royal city. The bell tower stood above the spherical building that looked like a church, and a receptionist dressed in a nun's uniform came to greet us. After all, Zhi Yi had no intention of hiding it at all, and would take back the Shadow Queen Bee after landing. When this pitch-black giant bee flew over the wall of the royal city, it probably caused quite a commotion. You are the sword hero, right? That's right. Seeing that the other party seemed to know him, Zhi Yi nodded. The black tide seems to be approaching soon. I'll take a look at the situation. The three of you, please come this way. In addition to Zhi Yi and Mai Yin, there is also Lav who follows the former. This time during the black tide, Zhi Yi planned to bring her here to train and upgrade. After all, with such a talent, he will definitely be responsible for brushing the soul of light and the soul of shadow on his behalf in the future, so he himself needs to have a certain level of combat power. Is a disaster coming? Lav held Zhi Yi's arm in fear, as if she was afraid that he would run away. Her parents died at the hands of the horde of monsters created by the Black Tide. The scene of her loved one's death left an indelible shadow in her young heart. Don't worry, I'm here this time. Zhi Yi rubbed Lav's little head. Unlike Setsuna's wolf ears, the Chinese ears of Raccoon Master have a soft and elastic feel. Mai Yin was watching this scene with some envy and jealousy. Zhi Yi always doted on the two subhuman slaves he bought, but ignored her. It was obvious that whether in figure or bloodline, I was more perfect than these two little girls. There are actually people in this world who are not attracted by her beauty, my master must have a special fetish. As if sensing what she was thinking, Zhi Yi glanced at her. Once you are teleported to the battlefield, just provide support from the back and don't run around. According to the mechanism of this world, after the disaster, the hero will be teleported to the area where the Black Tide broke out and fight the monsters pouring out of the portal. Because every country faces the same intensity of Kuroshio. Therefore, the number and strength of the heroes become the key to resisting the Black Tide. This is also the reason why the kingdom of Melamag is so hated. If you summon 4 heroes at once, other countries will have fewer heroes. It is very likely that there is no way to resist this Black Tide, resulting in the destruction of the city and the death of people. Who else should I hate if not you? I see. Mai Yin muttered a little aggrieved. As the first princess of the kingdom, she is at least an intermediate fire magician. In Zhi Yi's eyes, he can only help out from behind, almost like a logistics staff. A few minutes later, the nun brought Su Yi to the center of the bell tower, in front of a huge hourglass nearly 10 meters high. The base of the hourglass and the surrounding pillars are decorated with intricate patterns, and the surrounding walls are covered with colorful glass, giving people an extremely sacred and solemn feeling. My dear brave man, please take out the holy weapon. Under the guidance of the nun, Su Yi took out the holy sword. Suddenly, a ray of light shot out from the edge of the holy sword and shot towards the gem in the center of the dragon-carved hourglass. Immediately afterwards, a string of numbers appeared in Su Yi's field of vision. 0 hours 1 minute and 15 seconds. Before long, 15 became 14, apparently symbolizing minutes. There's still more than an hour left. Su Yi stared at the hourglass in front of him thoughtfully. There is very little sand left in the hourglass and it will soon be gone. It is estimated that after this black tide passes, it will be filled up again, waiting for the next natural disaster to come. Just then, a somewhat surprised voice came from behind. Hey, isn't this the sword hero? The spear hero, surrounded by a group of female adventurers, walked over calmly. After seeing Su Yi, the gun hero became more spirited and an eager look appeared on his face. Are you here to check the situation of the Kuroshio in advance as well? Su Yi nodded and looked him over. Compared to when he was first summoned to this world, the gun hero is no longer an ordinary college student. He was wearing a suit of glittering silver armor and a shirt underneath that seemed to have magical effects. The holy weapon, gun, in his hand also changed from its original shabby appearance, and turned into a spear with a domineering appearance and amazing power. Seeing that Su Yi had no intention of paying attention to him, the spear hero turned his gaze to Lav next to him, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Who is this girl? She's so cute. The gun hero quickly put on a self-proclaimed cool attitude and walked up to Raph and introduced himself. Miss, nice to meet you. I am one of the 4 heroes summoned here from another world. My name is Kitamura Motoyasu. Thank you for your guidance. DB. Lav leaned back behind Su Yi with some fear. My master won't let me talk to anyone who looks suspicious. Quote. Question mark quote. The gun hero, who was rejected by the little girl, was stunned when he heard this, and then questioned Su Yi. Sword hero, you actually let her call you master. I didn't expect you to have such a perverted side. The guy who just tried to chat up a little girl has no right to say that to me. Su Yi snorted coldly. He could see that the spear hero had become much stronger during this period. In other words, he must have reached a certain level and was very confident in his own strength, so much so that he even dared to challenge me. It seems that the only brave men who came to the Dragon Hourglass to check the situation were Su Yi and Kitamura Motoyasu. Time passes as we wait, and soon the black tide of disaster will hit. As a result, martial law was imposed inside and outside the royal city. The knights, hired adventurers, and mercenaries were all fully armed, ready to face any monsters that might appear. 014603124 Philo 172,293,041. Ordinary people stayed at home and did not go out, and the prosperous streets were empty. As for the brave, he will be teleported to the place where the black tide occurs when the hourglass reaches 0. This effect also applies to the hero's companions. Main and Raph will also be teleported together. The reason why Mai Yin was brought along was because she was chosen by Su Yi in public. If she didn't show up at this time, it would be rather suspicious. 001. There is only 1 minute left. Su Yi began to tense up, preparing for the disaster that was about to break out. 000. Boom. A loud roar that resounded throughout the world echoed in everyone's ears. The next moment, the surrounding scenery suddenly changed, and the sky was covered in scarlet blood. If Su Yi hadn't known that this was a black tide outbreak, he would have thought that he had returned to Bedmaster City and experienced it all over again. Yes. Just as Su Yi was checking the surrounding environment, the figures of 3 other heroes were teleported to the vicinity one after another. The bow hero and the shield hero also came closer and joined Su Yi and the spear hero. It looks like everyone is doing well, except Shangwen. The bow hero Kawasumiki glanced at their respective conditions, and finally his gaze fell on the shield hero. Why do you look like a refugee? And where are your companions? Who told me to only use a shield? I can't even use a weapon. Iwei and Naofumi complained angrily. That adventurer was very nice at first, but later he tried to **** me while I was sleeping. I was so scared that I had no choice but to leave him and run away. Ha 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 ha. You were actually, ha ha. Hearing what happened to the shield hero, the spear hero and his female followers burst into laughter. As mentioned before, anyone who has intercourse with the hero will receive the blessing of breaking through the limit, regardless of gender. What are you laughing at? I'm already annoyed enough. I'm only at level 1.3 now. Faced with the ridicule of his fellow heroes, Naofumi Iwaya's face became even more depressed. I'm already level 45, you're too slow. The bow hero reported his own level, and then looked at the other two, apparently wanting to compare their adventurous achievements during this period. I'm level 40 now. I have too many things to do, and… Quote. The spear hero scratched his head and glanced at the women beside him. His meaning was self-evident. He has too many flowers to nourish, which will naturally affect the speed of upgrading. Tisk, what a lucky guy. Iwaya Naofumi murmured with dissatisfaction, wondering why he was the only one who was almost R******D by the greasy middle-aged uncle. It seems that not only women should be careful, but men too can't let their guard down. By the way, where is the sword hero? A. Noticing the gazes of the other three heroes looking at him, Suyi said calmly. LV2. Huh, but my level is different from yours. If I were to convert it, I'm probably closer to level 60 or 70. Through this period of experience, Suyi deduced a simple conversion between Dicuo's level of favor and the level of this world. Roughly every 30 levels corresponds to one level of the wrong world, and this ratio will increase after upgrading. Suyi can now upgrade at any time. When it reaches LV3, it is roughly equivalent to level 70 in this world. This is the situation calculated purely based on ability values. As for the equipment on the body and the combat power of the Shadow Legion, these have not been taken into account. The average strength of adventurers in this world is around level 20. For ordinary people, you should be thankful if you can reach level 10. A genius from the clan like Setsuna can only reach level 50 or 60 at most. Only those who have obtained the status of brave man can level up to level 100 or above without bottlenecks. That is the level of LV3 to LV4 in the earthly world. There are probably no more than 30 heroes like this in the entire world. Is Zhao Li Zhao so tall? Is the sword master really not lying to us? The gun hero suggested, not quite believing Suyi's words. Why don't we have a competition to see who can kill more monsters in this black tide? Hey, this competition is totally unfair to me. The shield hero, who had no offensive power at all, immediately made a dissatisfied sound. Disaster is imminent. I don't have time to play this meaningless game with you. Suyi casually took out a flare and launched it into the air. This is a tool that the kingdom prepares for each hero before teleportation. It is used to quickly transmit messages when a black tide occurs and mark the location of the disaster. The next moment, the Shadow Queen Bee emerged from the ground, carrying Suyi and others, and disappeared in front of the other three heroes. I think he is scared. The spear hero wanted to say something else when suddenly a sharp sound of breaking through the air came from the direction where the Queen Bee left. The three heroes' faces changed drastically at the same time, and the shield hero subconsciously raised the shield in his hand to block the spear hero. Laugh. The holy shield weapon was pierced directly, and even Iwatani Naofumi's waist and abdomen were pierced by the flying weapon, nailing him and the spear hero to the ground. Question mark. 5-finger sword, orange. Plus 36 points of thief damage. Plus pierce an enemy. Plus stealth attack will track the enemy. Question mark. Plus automatically recycle after throwing. Damn it, is this a monster attack? The spear hero, who didn't know who attacked him, pushed Iwaya Naofumi away because there was a thin layer of dirt on the ground. Don't mess with him. The bow hero sighed, he already understood what Suyi meant. From the beginning, the sword hero was different from us. He is a real hero. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Chapter 91, Repel the Black Tide, Her Majesty the Queen returns. He's not dead, just consider it as a lesson for him. After retracting the 5-finger sword, Suyi rushed towards the nearby disaster-stricken village without looking back. The death of any of the 4 saints will increase the intensity of the black tide disaster. Even if Suyi had tied up the other 3 heroes and locked them in a small dark room from the beginning, it would have been of no avail. Because once the black tide comes, all the heroes will be teleported to the area where the disaster broke out. It would be better to let these ordinary people from another world to develop in the wild on their own, as long as they don't disturb Suyi's team fights. There's a situation over there, go down and help them. Under the wine-red sky, Suyi discovered the disaster-stricken villages in the area where the Kuroshio erupted. Although the knights and adventurers stationed here managed to repel the incoming monsters, they were outnumbered. The goblin warriors, goblin grenadier, and dragons pouring out of the portal were causing constant casualties. These monsters that Suyi found familiar actually all came from the Satanic Army in Terraria. This is a relatively special event, which is similar to tower defense and requires manual placement of sentinel-type summons and buildings for defense. Master, can't you just destroy the crystal next to the door? At a glance, Main saw the portal that continuously sent monsters out, as well as the crystal next to it. No, the portal will disappear only after a certain number of monsters are killed. As for the crystal, that's where we receive our rewards. How could we possibly destroy it? Seeing that the village's defenses were about to collapse, Suyi had no time to stop, and jumped directly off the Shadow Queen Bee. Switch, Wind Blade. The holy sword glowed with a blue-green glow, and its shape changed into a gorgeous giant sword of gold and blue. The next moment, Suyi spun around and swung his giant sword, releasing a whirlwind of intense attraction from his slash. Wind Blade Orange. Plus provides 41 melee damage. Plus when attacking, release a whirlwind that sucks in the enemy. This is one of the Azure Weapons series made from Azure ingots. Because it is a giant sword style, it is not suitable for a lightly armed warrior like Icy. After making it, Suyi placed it in the store as a display item. However, he now has a holy sword that can imitate and copy sword-like weapons, and this is the perfect time to bring out the advantages of the Wind Blade, gathering monsters. The whirlwind of the Wind Blade has a very good pulling ability, which can attract all smaller enemies together. In addition, the effects of multiple cyclones can be stacked and can penetrate enemies. It is simply the best way to clean up this chaotic battlefield situation. It's the sword hero. Great, we are saved. Seeing Suyi rushing into the battlefield alone, the knights of the kingdom recognized the 400 holy swords in his hand and issued excited battle cries. But just when they were about to take the opportunity to charge into the battlefield together, they heard Suyi's voice. You guys protect the villagers, and leave the monsters here to me. What, hero, are you going to face these monsters alone? Actually, Suyi wanted to take advantage of the rare opportunity to kill monsters and raise his dexterity and agility to SS level. However, his actions seemed to be misunderstood by the villagers and soldiers in the rear as some kind of remarkable spirit of sacrifice. The knights and adventurers, who were originally in low morale, immediately regrouped, picked up their weapons and rushed towards the battlefield. NND, don't come and steal the monsters. Seeing this scene, Suyi felt angry and amused at the same time, and he didn't know if it was too much for his own people to be so angry. LeFou, go attack those monsters that I gathered with the whirlwind, and be quick. Okay, master. Lav responded timidly, then took out the super thermal ion cannon that Suyi had given her and carried it on her slender shoulders. As magic power was injected, several phase laser balls burst out from the muzzle and landed in the center of the battlefield. Although it failed to directly hit the monster gathered in the whirlwind, the killing range of the phase laser ball after it exploded was enough to kill all the monsters nearby. Practice your aim again, and continue. Suyi threw an appraisal at Lav and found that her eyelids had swelled by half after this shot. A few more shots might even level up directly. One battle would give some adventurers a much bigger upgrade than what they gain in a few months. The Black Tide is indeed a natural monster spawning ground. Anyway, Suyi had accumulated enough great achievements, so he handed all the monsters over to Lav to clean up. If you don't have enough magic power, just buy magic potions from the merchant store. As for the magic crystals, he was fed 9 of them right from the start, a treatment better than that of the Elven royal family. I don't know if it was an illusion, but LeFou, who was just a little girl, suddenly grew up a lot after defeating several waves of monsters. It's not that the temperament has become mature and stable, but that the body has actually developed more maturely. Is this the characteristic of demihumans? Seeing this scene, Suyi had already vaguely guessed the reason. Demihumans have the rapid growth gene of animals, and their childhood is very short. As long as there is sufficient nutrients and environment, it can grow rapidly. Especially after upgrading, the bodies of young demihumans will develop rapidly until they reach maturity. However, the burden brought by such growth is also obvious. CEBJ, Master. I'm a little hungry. After firing another shot and clearing out the approaching monsters, Lav looked at Suyi somewhat embarrassedly. In fact, she was already very hungry, so she said this to Zhi Yi. Here, eat this. Love took the food handed to her by Zhi Yi. It looked like a black solid, but it exuded a sweet taste. After putting it into the mouth, a soft and rotten feeling that is a bit sweet and greasy quickly spreads in the mouth. The amazing thing is, even though it was just a small piece, after eating it, Lav felt her hunger was much reduced. Master, what is this? A high polymer, whole food energy bar, you could call it a Snickers bar. Quote. In fact, this is an emergency ration developed by SEMA Heavy Industries, suitable for police officers who often go to restricted areas to complete commissions. Just one stick can provide all the energy a strong man needs for 24 hours of intense exercise, and it is rich in most of the vitamins and other nutrients needed by the human body. This is a new product developed by SEMA Heavy Industries after research on wasp-type protozoans, and it is said to be widely acclaimed. The biological samples required for the study were naturally kindly provided by Zhi Yi. Before coming to this world, he specifically asked Wei Ji for a bunch of things. However, after eating it for a few days, Zhi Yi got a little tired of it. After all, this thing can only be used in emergencies. In terms of taste, Zhi Yi might as well go to Terraria and catch a few rabbits to make soup. The effect of the Snickers bar was very significant. It immediately cheered up Love and she continued to fight vigorously, for 10 minutes. Master, because Lav, whose hair seemed to be longer than before, said this in a somewhat embarrassed tone. I'm hungry again. It's okay, keep eating. Zhi Yi stuffed a gun into Lav's mouth like loading ammunition. 10 minutes later. Stop talking, come on. The unfortunate monster didn't make it past the time Raph ate his fourth Snickers bar, and the portal gradually began to dissipate. But the bloody sky still covered the area like a dark cloud, and a huge crack tore through the sky, which was shocking to the sight. This means that the Black Tide disaster is still continuing, but the enemies on Zhi Yi's side have been eliminated. Sword Hero, it's a good thing you acted in time, otherwise this village would have been devastated. The captain of the knights stationed here came over and saluted Zhi Yi respectfully. They had just witnessed the feat of the Sword Hero and his companions. Are there other towns nearby that might be affected? There is another small town in the northeast. But the other heroes should go there, right? Oh, that's not necessarily true. Zhi Yi thought about it and left a group of shadow soldiers near the village. These are soldiers under my control. There is no need to fear or attack them. If there are more monsters invading, they will protect this place until the black tide recedes. After saying that, Zhi Yi turned around and left with LeFou and Taijin, who was just there for fun. Before leaving, he did not forget to go to Crystal to get his reward. You received the Guardian Medal, X20. You have unlocked the Tavern Owner function. It turns out that functions can be unlocked in this way. Seeing the extra medals in his hand, Zhi Yi seemed to understand something. The Tavern Owner is the NPC in Terraria regarding the Old One's Army event. Some Sentinel-related protective gear and weapons can be purchased in his shop. However, most of them can only be unlocked after the hard mode. The only items Zhi Yi can buy now are some very low-level staffs. Keep it, it's useless now. Anyway, it was just content that was unlocked incidentally, so Zhi Yi himself didn't have high expectations. After defeating the Cyclops, there are only two powerful enemies left. The Slime God, and the Wall of Flesh. After this black tide is over and he has made full preparations, Zhi Yi plans to challenge the boss who is known as the God. Found, the elite monster of the Old One's army. It seems that someone is already fighting it. High in the sky, Zhi Yi saw a chaotic battlefield. The other three heroes are fighting against an enemy called Dark Magician. Dark Magician sitting on a huge floating magic book. He kept dodging the attacks of the Spear Hero and the Bow Hero. As for the Shield Hero, he can only help out from the sidelines. Help resist the skeleton soldiers summoned by the Dark Magician. Damn, flying enemies are so difficult to deal with. The Spear Hero ran a long circle before he found the spear he had thrown. Tree, can't you just shoot it down? Then go and clear out the flying dragons around it, otherwise I will be disturbed. But this guy can heal nearby monsters, so he can't kill them all. The brave team seemed to be in chaos. Just as they were arguing, the monster's attack suddenly slowed down. The skeletons of Satan, summoned by the Dark Magician, disintegrated and scattered into ashes. You guys continue, I won't bother you anymore. Zhi Yi retracted his cane, picked up the items dropped by the Dark Magician, and threw them all into the inventory. Because it was just an elite monster, the Dark Magician's health was too low to block his stealth attack even if he tried his best. The moment Su Yi attacked, the Dark Magician was killed instantly. Sword Hero. When the Spear Hero saw Su Yi reappear in front of him, he felt a dull pain in his chest. Although the healing potion left by the opponent is effective, the fruit is very powerful, and just one sip can heal all injuries. But the severe pain of being pierced by the knife still lingers in the mind of the Spear Hero. This is our boss. Do you know that you will be scolded for stealing monsters in online games? Boss. It's just an elite monster. Su Yi first corrected the other party's wording, and then snapped his fingers. Stand up. The corpses of the Black Tide monsters that were fighting with the heroes just now condensed into Dark Shadow soldiers, and they all turned their heads to look at the Spear Hero and others. Even the Dark Magician who had just been killed by Su Yi sat back on the book. Since you guys accused me of stealing monsters, I won't give it to you. I hope you have fun. Etc. The archer hero suddenly raised his hand. I don't want to continue fighting with this guy. Sir Sword Hero, can you give me a ride? These words made the Spear Hero's face turn as ugly as pig liver. The Iwaya Naofumi, who was covered in bruises, also raised his hand weakly. Although as the Shield Hero, he has extremely high defense. But in the battle just now, the Spear Hero ignored him and just let him lure the monsters away while he went to fight the Dark Magician alone. I'll charge you next time. Su Yi swung out his hook and directly grabbed the Shield Hero and the Bow Hero to the Shadow Queen Bee. Is 10 silver coins enough? At least 5 gold coins. All my belongings are only 30 silver coins. Shang Wen, you are in such a miserable state. Looking at the Shadow Queen Bee gradually going away, the gun hero stomped his feet angrily. These guys actually betrayed me. Suddenly, he saw shadow soldiers gradually surrounding him. Even the Dark Magician began to gather his magic power, preparing to throw a ball of dark energy. Wait, these guys are not really going to continue attacking, are they? The Black Tide should have ended. I was wrong. Please don't leave me here. To celebrate the successful passage of the Kuroshio crisis, a grand banquet was held in the palace. Oh, you are worthy of being the 4 saint warriors. King Melamag the 32nd greeted the triumphant Su Yi and others with a smile. Compared to the last time, the damage this time is so different that even I can't hide my surprise. The number of casualties this time is only in the shocking single digits. Sword Hero, and the other 3 heroes, this is all thanks to your hard work. The reason why Su Yi's name was put in front was because the king had heard the news reported by the knights. It's not just Su Yi, the Sword Hero, who has strong fighting power. Even the little demihuman girl beside him seems to have the terrifying power to destroy a large area of monsters with just 10 strikes. This made the king unable to help but show his color to mane. My daughter, you have to work hard too. What do you mean, old man? Mai Yin glared back impatiently. Refuel. What kind of fuel? Su Yi is nowhere to be seen all day long, and even if he wants to show his affection, he can't find anyone. Or he would just stay with those 2 subhuman slaves and not even take her with him to play ranked games. Just when the old king wanted to communicate something with his eye contact, there was suddenly a commotion outside the banquet hall. Who dares to make a noise in the palace? Could it be? Su Yi seemed to have a premonition of something and looked towards the entrance. A graceful woman walked in with her attendants. Beside her was a noble girl with purple twin ponytails. First, please allow me, in the name of the queen, to pay my highest respects to the heroes who have been summoned. The woman swept the entire place with her sharp eyes, finally stopping on a few brave men. Let me introduce myself. I am the queen of the kingdom of Melamag, and this is my second daughter, Sweeldy. Having said that, Her Majesty the Queen walked directly to Su Yi, and Mai Yin beside her, and questioned in a calm tone. What trouble have you gotten yourself into while I was away? My dear eldest daughter, Maddie Sophia Melomager. Chapter 92, Money comes out as soon as it's issued. This is the confidence that perspective brings me. As we all know, once your parents start calling you by your full name, it usually means bad luck is coming. Even Mai Yin, the first princess, was no exception when facing her mother. Not to mention, the person who actually holds power in this country is not the king, but the queen in front of us. Because the kingdom of Melamag is a royal family dominated by female royals, the queen has more power. The current king is actually Queen Myrlias, King Proxy. Under the queen's piercing gaze, few people could bear it. But the problem is, I really didn't do anything bad during this period. My yin felt like crying but had no tears. When the 4 holy warriors were first summoned to this world, she wanted to do something secretly to sow discord among the warriors. But before he could take any action, Suyi forced him to sign the contract, and he just played a supporting role along the way. Oh, it seems that you still don't repent. Queen Myrlia sneered when she saw her daughter was silent. Remember what I said. If you continue to commit crimes, I will give your house to that shabby pig-headed man. I mean what I say. Now is the time to fulfill this responsibility. Please wait, Your Majesty. Suddenly, Suyi at the side interrupted the queen's speech. Sword Hero. Facing Suyi, the queen's tone softened and her eyes were full of approval. On the way back home, I heard about your feat. Melamag owes you a favor, and I will personally award you the medal. The awarding of honors can be put on hold for now. Suyi nodded slightly, thinking that Her Majesty the Queen really had a clear distinction between public and private affairs and a distinctive style. Maddie is my companion. I can guarantee that she did not do anything out of the ordinary during this trip. Rather, having her by my side has saved me a lot of time. Oh, is this true? Not only the queen, but even the second princess behind the queen showed a look of surprise. She knew her sister's character very well. She was simply a troublemaker in human form. It would be fine if he was just lazy and gluttonous, but it is really shocking that McGrady could drain the national treasury to the point where the income was not enough to cover the expenses. If not for this, the mother of the two would not have imposed such severe punishment. But this brave man actually said that my sister didn't do anything bad along the way. Is this still her sister who helped old ladies hit their heads against walls and dug holes for blind people? My yin looked at Suyi with great emotion, but soon she was met with a sharp glance from Queen Myrlia. Sir Brave, my eldest daughter is a habitual liar, you must not be fooled by her. Haha, thank you for your reminder, Your Majesty. I will be able to tell the difference. Suyi and Queen Myrlia looked at each other for a moment, then looked away. It seems I was worrying too much. In the end, it was the queen who spoke first and ended the topic. Since the sword hero has the confidence to tame her, I will leave Maddie to you. I hope she can learn the noble qualities you possess while traveling with the brave. As expected of the queen, she sold out her own daughter in just a few words and flattered herself at the same time. I'm afraid that for Queen Myrlia, she would rather Maddie disappear from her sight as soon as possible, so that he could smoothly pass the throne to his second daughter, Melty, who was more intelligent and kind. In this regard, Suyi naturally would not refuse the queen's kindness. I will never betray the queen's trust. The two looked at each other again, seemed to have reached some kind of tacit understanding, and both showed satisfied smiles. The only one injured is probably the first princess. This vicious woman, luckily I have already signed a contract with my master, so her trick poses no threat to me. My yin gritted her teeth and made plans in her heart. However, I must take revenge, but the master will definitely not allow me to hurt her. In that case, Hehe. Mother, I hope you like this gift I gave you. The second princess, who was secretly observing the sword hero from behind the queen, suddenly felt a chill. She seemed to realize something and quickly shifted her gaze, just in time to see the fleeting sinister smile on her sister's face. Oh no, my sister always makes this expression every time she has a bad idea. What is she thinking about? Is she seeking revenge on her mother? Or... No, I must stop her. The 4 people who passed by each had their own plans. The banquet ended smoothly with great cheer, and did not end in unpleasantness as in the original work. The reason for this is that Suyi's achievements as the sword hero were truly unquestionable and extremely dazzling. Not only did he fend off most of the monsters in the Black Tide by himself, he also killed the Black Tide's elite monster with one strike. It can be said that he single-handedly minimized the losses suffered by the kingdom of Melamag. As for whether other countries have this good luck, that's hard to say. Faced with a number of monsters that even Suyi felt a little troubled. If they only had the level of the spear hero and the bow hero, they might not even be able to defend a town that had been hit by a disaster. So, the legendary sword hero, you don't need more slaves. In the circus's slave black market, a strange man wearing a bowler hat and sunglasses rubbed his hands, his face full of anticipation. You are well informed. Suyi glanced at him and was not surprised that his identity was recognized. What you said is that the most important thing for us is intelligence. The slave trader wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and tried hard to force a smile. He just sold a slave of the Ice Wolf clan to the Sword Hero last time. It wasn't long before the official slave hunting team of the Kingdom of Jorlar was completely wiped out, and not a single one escaped. It's hard not to think of the relationship between these two things. Slave, I'm not interested anymore. Do you have any monster eggs? Hey, how did you know that I just received a batch of high-quality monster eggs yesterday? You are the one with the most information, right? Stop talking nonsense and bring it out for us to see. Soon, Merchant Bing took out a wooden box filled with eggs and herbs from the corner of the tent. Judging from the dust on it, the "just got in yesterday" and other things are all nonsense. This box of eggs must have been in the tent for a long time. Speaking of which, why do you have monster eggs here? After all, I need a public identity, such as a monster merchant or something like that. It seems that your business has not been open for a long time. After all, in this country, the demand for slaves is much greater than that for monsters. Even after the capture of slaves by the Kingdom of Jorlar, the largest market was the neighboring country of Melamag. It just goes to show how deeply entrenched slavery was in this country. Suyi is not interested in these. After all, every world has its own national conditions. How much are these monster eggs? Hehe, 100 silver coins for one draw. The slave trader showed a profiteer's smile on his face. If you're lucky, you might get a dragon egg worth 25 gold coins. Although Suyi's goal was not the biggest prize, he still asked with interest. What if I'm unlucky? The normal reward is a philo bird egg. An adult philo bird can be sold for 200 silver coins, so it's a guaranteed profit. There is something fishy about Su Shen. Just like an adult pig can be sold for 10,000 yuan, so spending 9,000 yuan to buy a piglet is definitely not a loss. However, Suyi did not expose him on the spot, but directly threw a bag of coins over. I'll try my luck twice. Okay. Seeing business coming to his door, the slave trader immediately smiled happily. There are 250 monster eggs in the box, and one of them is the grand prize, the dragon egg. By the way, if you buy 10 at a time, you can get one more draw from the Easter egg box. No thanks. Suyi used identify on the eggs in the box while rejecting the merchant's persuasion. 10 consecutive hits. That doesn't exist. For Suyi, who has perspective, the fact that he has already sent the goods is enough to ship them. I want this one, and this one. Suyi quickly picked out 2 monster eggs. One of them is a dragon egg worth 25 gold coins. The other one is a monster egg that can hatch the philo bird. This is a common giant monster with a gentle and friendly personality and is very easy to tame. Then please drop some blood on the surface of the eggshell where the mark is drawn. According to the slave trader, Suyi smeared blood on the emblem on the surface of the eggshell. Then there was a flash of red light, and information about pets appeared in Suyi's field of vision. It wasn't that his system was exerting force, but that the panel of this world was reacting. Then you just need to put the eggs in the incubator and wait for them to hatch. The slave trader showed a wicked smile and took out 2 oval shell incubators, but to Suyi they looked like egg boilers. How long will it take to hatch? The hatching time of each egg is different, but you can find out the hatching time based on the information on the incubator. Deck. Suyi glanced at the incubator in his hand, and like the dragon-carved hourglass, 2 decreasing countdowns popped up in his field of vision. One shows 12 hours left, the other shows 72 hours left. The latter is naturally a dragon egg, which takes a full 3 days to hatch. The philo bird is a relatively low-level monster that can hatch from its egg in half a day. Although I don't know what kind of monster you will hatch, I personally recommend preparing more food. After the transaction was completed, the slave trader seemed to feel embarrassed that he had made money from the sword hero, so he reminded him. After a monster is born, it will grow rapidly and level up, which is when it needs to eat a lot. If you don't get enough nutrition during this period, you may be considered below the average level of the race, which is called stunted growth. I didn't expect that a slave trader like you would know all this. Suyi teased and put away the incubator. I'll take note. Are you leaving? I look forward to seeing you next time, brave man. It's a pity that if nothing else, this would probably be Suyi's last visit to the slave shop. According to the status information that only heroes can see, the next black tide will be in 45 days. Generally speaking, heroes would take advantage of this rare rest time to travel around and improve their levels. But Suyi has a better place to go, that is to return to Terraria. According to the time ratio, 1 day in the Shield Hero world is equivalent to 1 day in Terraria and Apocalypse world. 4 days. In Suyi's eyes, there is still half a year before the next black tide, so there is no rush. However, when Suyi was about to return home, he received a meeting invitation from Queen Myrlia from the palace. Considering the bad mother-daughter relationship between mine and the queen, Suyi didn't bring anyone with him this time and attended the banquet alone. Queen Myrlia couldn't just smash the cup as a signal and have 500 swordsmen rush out from the side to ambush her, right? As it turned out, Suyi's concerns were purely self-inflicted. I'm very sorry for wasting your precious training time to come see me. As soon as they met, Queen Myrlia came up personally and apologized to Suyi. Your Majesty, there is no need to apologize, but it seems that you did not invite other heroes. Suyi looked around and found that he was the only one invited, and felt a little confused. Logically speaking, if it's about a brave man, all the 4 holy warriors should be summoned. Could it be because of the first princess? However, after hearing Suyi's question, Queen Myrlia smiled bitterly. Because this matter is only about you, or rather, only about the sword hero. Oh, why do you say that? This is a long story. Please take a seat first, Your Excellency the Brave One, and I will tell you slowly. Question mark. Chapter 93 Queen, to make Melamag great again. You mean, the sword hero of the Kingdom of Jorar wants to challenge me. After listening to the Queen's narration, Suyi summarized it succinctly. As mentioned before, this world not only has the 4 holy warriors, summoned from another world, but also many local heroes. It's just that the historical achievements and reputation of the 4 saint warriors are the most widely spread, so they are widely known. In fact, local heroes can also get decent, plug-in, bonuses. The Kingdom of Jorar also has heroes who use sword as their honorific title. In addition, there are the Canon Brave and the Technique Brave, who serve as the backbone of the resistance against the Black Tide. As for the Healing Brave Man, in Suyi's memory, he did not seem to appear. It may be the fusion of the 2 worlds that caused a billion deviations in the plot. Yes, it's probably because we are both sword heroes. Quote. The Queen nodded, a trace of helplessness appearing on her beautiful face. If Audiobook hadn't summoned the 4 of you heroes at the same time without permission, I wouldn't have to run around and lobby the countries around the world. There wouldn't be this kind of troublesome thing. Audiobook was the old king that Suyi had met before, or to be more precise, the acting king. Because the real person in power in this country is actually Queen Myrlia. I am extremely sorry for involving the sword hero in our country's private affairs. That's fine. I also want to see the culture and customs of the Kingdom of Jorar. Suyi waved his hand to indicate that he didn't mind. Anyway, there is still a month and a half before the Black Tide, and he is planning to go to the country of Stick Hero to take a look. Although it sounds like after the fusion, Jorar does not seem to appear as the protagonist, the healing hero. However, this sentence seemed to make the Queen realize something. After thinking for a moment, she suddenly said, I wonder what your impression of Melty is, Mr. Sword Hero. Melty. Suyi was stunned when he heard this. Why did the topic suddenly turn to the little princess of the kingdom? It's the child who came back with me yesterday. Queen Myrlia said as a matter of course. To be honest, Melty is my favorite child. She is not only talented in magic, but also kind-hearted, good at governing the country, and has a very good appearance. What? Suyi always felt that Queen Myrlia at this time seemed to be similar to the uncles and aunts at the entrance of the village. They all like to introduce partners to young people. After I abdicate, she will be the next queen of Melamag. If she can marry you, the sword hero, it will definitely greatly enhance the reputation of our country. It is true. Her Majesty the Queen, who sold her eldest daughter without hesitation, is now selling her second daughter. But what she said was not wrong. The current kingdom of Melamag could be said to have aroused public anger. They even convened a world conference and called the Queen to accept sanctions from other countries. If we could form an alliance with the 4 legendary warriors, perhaps the situation would be much better. In this world with natural disasters, the reputation of heroes among the people is amazing. Queen Myrlia saw this point and proposed a marriage. If I remember correctly, Suyi said with some embarrassment. Your little princess is only 12 years old this year. So what? In my world, if you hit a little girl of this age, you will go to jail. My lord, this is the kingdom of Melamag, and I am the law. The Queen said nonchalantly. What's more, if you don't completely eradicate the black tide, you and the other 4 holy warriors will not be able to return to your original world. In that case, why not enjoy the treatment of a hero while improving your strength? It doesn't matter if you abandon Melty and leave this world, as long as you can leave offspring. As expected of Her Majesty the Queen, she made such a shocking statement with ease. It seems that Su Yi made a lot of money in this deal, but in fact, considering the special treatment of the brave in this world, Miss Myrlia's calculations are more reasonable. After all, Su Yi was not in a hurry, but King Melamag was in a very troublesome situation at this time, as if he was on a barbecue grill. Have you ever considered looking for other heroes, Her Majesty? Haha, the other 3 heroes are far inferior to you in terms of bearing, strength, or honor. Although it was an obvious compliment, Su Yi was very pleased with the Queen's words. I will consider this matter. In addition, Su Yi did not continue on this topic. Regarding the challenge of the sword hero of Joror, I accepted it. Did the other party say when to fight? 2 days later, at the king's capital arena in the kingdom of Joror. Queen Myrlia spoke of a somewhat tense time. 2 days. That's a bit tight. The journey alone doesn't even require that much time. If it were an ordinary carriage or a philo bird, it would probably take 2 or 3 days just to get from here to the capital of the kingdom of Joror. So, this is the situation the kingdom is facing now. The queen said in a quiet tone. Even a hero from a neighboring country can make such a malicious request to me. The news of the duel between the 2 sword heroes has spread all over the streets of the kingdom of Joror. If you don't accept the challenge, I'm afraid all kinds of rumors will spread among the people. But if I win, your country will at least survive this challenge. Su Yi saw through the queen's little thoughts and spoke slowly. Excuse me, it's not my duty as a hero to help you with this kind of chores. My enemy should be the monsters in the black tide. In other words, you have to pay extra. Do your enemies also include soldiers from the kingdom of Joror disguised as mercenary slave hunters? The queen revealed a piece of information with a hint of meaning, a smiling expression on her face. I believe that the sword hero is a kind person who will lend a helping hand to those who call for help. Were they found out? Su Yi's eyelids twitched, a little surprised, but not too surprised. I heard that Queen Myrlia has an intelligence network consisting of a group of shadows operating in secret around her. They are really well informed. Same here, for you who was summoned from another world, I am also surprised to know this. The atmosphere fell silent for about 2 or 3 seconds before the queen broke the awkward atmosphere. Of course, the kingdom will definitely not treat you badly, the brave man. Whether you can win this challenge or not, I will prepare a territory for you as a gift for helping the kingdom of Melamag. Territory. Su Yi was indeed tempted when he heard the conditions offered by Queen Myrlia. If you can have a piece of territory of your own in this world, it will be much more convenient to move around. The most important thing is that you can move various things from the Terraria world and conduct experiments. After thinking for a moment, Su Yi put forward another condition. I want to choose the location of this territory myself. No problem. Apart from the royal territory near the royal city, I will also help you find other noble fiefs if you have your eyes on them. It can be seen that the queen's ruling power is quite amazing. Then it's settled. Su Yi nodded with satisfaction, turned around and left the palace. Not until his footsteps completely disappeared did the queen's expression gradually return to calm, and she rubbed her brows with a headache. He looks like a teenager, but why is he more exhausted than those old foxes in negotiations? In fact, before Su Yi, Queen Celeria also had a separate communication with the shield hero and others. The other 3 summoned heroes all had pure minds, a kind of pure stupidity that did not belong to this world, as if they had grown up in a completely safe environment. Queen Myrlia only used simple rhetoric and a little bit of profit to keep them in the kingdom of Melamag and continue to fight against the black tide. But the sword hero is the most difficult one. From the acting king, the queen learned the identity Su Yi reported when he was summoned. The god's family, the brave savior, the shadow king. These sound like names that only appear in the epic poems of bards. Maybe this is really the past that this sword hero carries. Therefore, Lady Myrlia wants to keep Su Yi in her country at all costs. 014603124 Philu 172,293,511. At least let Melty get pregnant with the hero's child. The blood of a brave warrior with such great power should make the kingdom of Melamag great again. Chapter 94. A journey of exploration into hell filled with surprises. Master, welcome back. In the Terraria world, Suyi's figure suddenly appeared, and two demi-human girls came up to him happily. It's Setsuna and Raph. Are you feeling comfortable here? Suyi held a furry head with one hand, feeling the different touches of the wolf ears and the raccoon ears. The wolf ears are more sporty, while the raccoon ears are more business-like, and both feel very good. Well, this world is beautiful and safe. Raph nodded vigorously. After the battle with the Black Tide, her level has risen to over 40. This is equivalent to Orario just reaching the level of a LV2 adventurer, and the speed is amazing. Just like monsters, when subhumans' levels increase rapidly during their childhood, their bodies will also develop faster. At this moment, Lav was no longer the thin little girl that Suyi saw in the slave camp. With sufficient nutrients, she has grown into a beauty who is no less beautiful than Setsuna. Her originally pale and thin face was transformed into fair and delicate skin, with beautiful facial features and waist-length hair with natural curls. When standing in front of Suyi, she looked like a graceful lady. But perhaps because she grew up too fast, Lav still has some childish temperament and often sticks to Suyi, even when she is sleeping. What about Setsuna? Suyi looked at the ice wolf girl next to him. How are your people? Thanks to the master, they have now adapted to this world, but... It seemed as if Shanda wanted to say something but hesitated. But what? Everything else is fine, but the ice wolf clan is not used to a life of only eating fruits. Hearing the question raised by Setsuna, Suyi reacted immediately. Although there is plenty of fruit in Terraria, the ice wolves are not elves who like to eat grass, so they definitely prefer meat. Seeing Suyi looking thoughtful, he quickly added, Master, I am not complaining. In fact, you can provide a safe home for everyone in the ice wolf tribe. They are already very satisfied. I know, but if there is a problem, it must be solved. Delaying it will only cause more trouble. Suyi nodded 24, indicating that he did not misunderstand. It will probably take some time to solve the meat problem, but I can let you have seafood freedom first. Setsuna, can you fish? I only know how to catch fish with my claws, but there don't seem to be any fish in the pond here. The fish in this world can only be caught with a fishing rod. Look, let me show you. Afterwards, Yinyi taught Setsuna the fishing method in Terraria. By the way, he used the magic ore to make many fishing rods as hunting tools for the ice wolf tribe. I can actually catch so many things. When Shanna looked at the catch in the box, his eyes sparkled as if he had opened the door to a new world. The fishing in this world almost overturned her cognition. In addition to all kinds of fish, you can even catch all kinds of junk, treasure boxes that can reveal treasures, and even equipment directly. If you don't have enough bait, just use the bug net to collect it yourself. You don't need me to teach you this, right? Leave it to me, master. Setsuna assured, patting her small but resilient chest. This world is too peaceful, and some people can't adapt to it. It's a good opportunity to give those energetic tribesmen something to do. Very good, it seems that all members of the Ice Wolf clan have the potential to become fishermen. By the way, master, this is an item that someone found while exploring in the ice cave. Shanna suddenly remembered something and took out a pair of white shoes from the box next to him. It looks like an item that was opened from a blue treasure chest. After Uncle Norn heard about this, he asked me to pass the items in the treasure chest to you. Oh, it seems your people are lucky. Suyi took the item from Setsuna with some surprise and used the identify. In fact, he knew the properties of this pair of shoes without any identification ability. Question mark. Inline skates blue. Plus provides faster acceleration on ice. Plus falling on ice will not break the ice. This is a special shoe accessory that can only be obtained from the frozen treasure chest in the ice biome. Suyi had hardly explored the underground ice and snow environment before, so he had not collected this accessory for a long time. This trinket's effects appear to only be useful for exploring ice biomes. In fact, it is also an upgrade component for higher level shoe accessories. With it, the props in Suyi's hand can be combined with each other to become more powerful advanced accessories. Yes, this is exactly what I need. Seeing Suyi's satisfied look, he wagged his tail happily. After Setsuna left with a bunch of fishing rods, Suyi also started to get busy. In the craftsman's workshop, different accessories can be synthesized. Suyi first took out the rocket boots purchased from the craftsman store, and then the Hermes boots from the ordinary treasure chest. The two can be combined into ghost shoes that have the effects of both. Adding the wind anklet and shoelace tip, accessories can synthesize more powerful lightning boots. The former is a reward from the jungle treasure chest. Suyi has explored the jungle many times, so he has a lot of inventory. The latter can be found in wooden chests, or crafted from iron ingots. Suyi directly made one on the spot and sold it for synthesis. The finished lightning boots can be combined with the ice skates that Setsuna brought just now to create the frost flower boots. Question mark. Frost flower boots lime green. Plus can fly for a short time. Question mark. Plus get faster acceleration. Plus provides additional ice surface movement capabilities. Plus movement speed increased by 8%. This is the highest rarity item Suyi currently owns. The lime green one is level 7 rarity, which is equivalent to equipment from the Plantera period. But this is not the limit of what this accessory can achieve. If you want to continue the synthesis, you need another item, lava boots. Frost flower boots plus lava boots can be made into the original top-level boots accessories called Terra shining boots. Although the frost flower boots are sufficient, Suyi always feels itchy if he doesn't continue to synthesize them. LeFou, accompany me to hell. Quote. Question mark exclamation mark quote. Love was stunned for a moment, then showed a surprised expression. Master, do you want to commit suicide with me? This is the hell of this world. What are you thinking? Suyi reached out and flicked the raccoon girl's ear, and the latter immediately hugged her head and took a defensive stance. I don't know, what equipment do I need to change this time? Well, let's switch to the summoner's set. This time we'll focus on exploration, no need for fighting. Soon, at Suyi's request, Lav changed into the summoner's sky blue suit. A shadow of a Valkyrie with a similar appearance to her automatically emerged and stood guard beside her. At the same time, Raph waved a staff that looked like a flower, summoning a few familiar-looking wasps. This is a wasp staff made from the material, beeswax, dropped by the queen bee. It is a summoning weapon. It can summon the wasp monsters that can be found everywhere in the jungle biome, which can attack enemies from a distance with their stingers and cause poisoning. Although the basic damage is relatively low, it can be enhanced by accessories dropped by the queen bee. Before hard mode, this is a good summon weapon. Let's go. With any luck, you'll be able to use your new weapon later. After checking the prepared potions in the inventory, Suyi summoned the Shadow Devourer and took Raph all the way to the depths of the underground. Hell, the lowest biome in Terraria. In contrast to the empty space environment, hell is filled with magma and hellstone, with ashes everywhere. In the magma that emits amazing heat and light, there are many ruins of buildings. These are unique buildings in hell, containing unique furniture and shadow treasure chests. 014603124 Philo 172,303,071. Suyi had come to explore hell several times before in order to obtain the hell furnace that could melt hellstone, but he did not go deeper each time. Today was his first time exploring hell after defeating Skeleton King. The locked gold chest in the dungeon can open the shadow key, which can open the shadow chest in hell. This is also one of the reasons why Suyi came to explore hell today. Another reason, of course, is to collect materials for making the Terra shining boots. Is this hell? Looking at the huge magma pool that almost burned her eyes, Love suddenly became nervous. I was afraid that if I took a wrong step, I would fall into the bubbling magma and be destroyed. The scorching temperature made her feel that even the wasps she summoned exuded the aroma of charcoal grilled protein. Relax, after drinking the obsidian skin potion, you can even bathe in lava without any problem. Suyi comforted her. Obsidian skin potion grants the drinker immunity to lava and burning. While the buff lasts, the lava will be as comfortable as warm water, and you can take this opportunity to dive into the lava pool to collect hellstone. Although this is the truth, Lav was still a little scared when she came to hell for the first time. After a few more times, she should get used to it. I'll go downstairs. You wait here. If any monsters come, let the summoned creatures kill them. After leaving some shadow soldiers behind, Suyi drank the obsidian skin potion and plunged into the lava without hesitation. I have made a lot of things recently, and I have consumed a lot of hellstone ingots. It is a good opportunity for me to come to hell to collect some hellstones. In addition, hellstone is also the material for making the lava boots component accessories. The Calamity mod adds crafting recipes for many rare items from the original game, including accessories, weapons, potions, and more. These rare items were originally only available through treasure chests or drops from special enemies. This optimization allows Su Yi to obtain these items without having to go out of his way to find treasure chests or kill monsters. As long as you have enough materials, you can create unique drops that can only be found in treasure chests. So after he had accumulated a certain amount of experience in the Terraria world, he no longer pursued treasure chests but instead explored different new areas and obtained materials, such as the special workstation, Sky Mill, for making Sky Blue series equipment. Originally it could only be obtained through the treasure chest on the floating island, but in the disaster, it can be made with cloud blocks, rain cloud blocks and sun disk blocks, which is very convenient. These should be about it. After swimming in the magma for about half an hour and consuming 5 or 6 bottles of obsidian skin potions, Su Yi finally floated up. As soon as he showed his head, he saw a series of shadow sickles flying towards him. Because it was inconvenient to dodge 140 degrees in the sticky magma, Su Yi could only take the first few shadow sickles. This is a spell with a penetrating effect. Defeating a demon has a chance to drop the corresponding spellbook. Although the power and functionality of the spell are very good, but this time Su Yi was the one being attacked by the spell. Don't run away, wait for me. Su Yi found that several strands of his hair were cut off by the shadow scythe, and his anger level rose on the spot. Directly summon the slime mount, and use the double jump to fly directly to the top of the demon monster. Holy Sword, Blade mode of the destroyed environment. With a set of environment tuning combos, Su Yi directly killed the demon that had just attacked him. Several silver coins were scattered on the demon's body. The props that dropped at the same time included a very abrupt giant sword. It is hard to imagine how a demon, with the height of a child, could turn into a warrior who is more than a person's height. Oh, it's actually shipped. Su Yi picked up the giant sword. As far as he remembered, this weapon did not exist in the original version. It should be a new equipment added by the disaster module. Gift of the sword, orange. Plus deal 17 melee damage. Plus emit 3 inches blood scythe, sword chi when swinging. Plus sword chi has tracking, wall penetration, explosion effects, and applies, burning, debuff. What the hell? So strong. After reading the identification information of the weapon, even Su Yi couldn't help but swear. Do you like the big sword that can fire triple barrages, penetrate infinitely, explode, ignite, and has a tracking effect? Except for the pitifully low base damage, this sword is simply perfect. However, the injury issue is not a problem for Su Yi. Because he has the Holy Sword. Weapons copied by a Holy Sword will inherit the Holy Sword's rarity and basic damage panel. In other words, Su Yi can just take the special effects of this sword without inheriting its damage. Very good, the next challenge will make God Mu more confident. Su Yi directly took out the Holy Sword and copied the Oath of the Sword. Originally, he thought that the incomplete environment blade was already very powerful, but he didn't expect that there were even masters among the equipment dropped by the hell monsters. It seems that there is really nothing strange in the disaster module. We've had a good harvest today. It's time to go and join the Logwanko. During the time that Su Yi was mining hellstone, Lav should have killed a lot of monsters, and maybe there would be some unexpected gains. Master, I'm here. The Demahuman girl, who was surrounded by 4 or 5 wasps, noticed Su Yi and waved happily. Su Yi was about to respond when she was horrified to find that Lav was swinging a familiar-looking doll in her hand. Love, don't throw that thing out. Chapter 95 Equipment Upgrade. Raise the knife to the gods. Guide voodoo doll, white. Throw it into the lava to awaken the wall of flesh and blood. 24 hours cooling time per use. Fortunately, Su Yi reminded her in time, so Lav didn't accidentally throw the voodoo doll into the lava. Otherwise, Su Yi will have to face the awakened, wall of flesh and blood, boss in advance. Sorry. I didn't know it was so scary. After listening to Su Yi's explanation of the function of the voodoo doll, Love suddenly realized how dangerous her behavior was. She just thought it was strange that monsters would drop dolls, and wanted to report it to Su Yi. It's okay, I didn't make it clear beforehand. Su Yi carefully stuffed the voodoo doll into the inventory and then breathed a sigh of relief. Just be careful next time. As if to make up for the action that almost led to a big mistake just now, Raph showed his adventurer's ring and poured out many props. These are the items dropped by the monsters we just killed. Master, there shouldn't be anything strange in there, right? Let me see. Because Lav stayed outside the lava pool, she encountered many more monsters than Su Yi. Demon's ashes can be used to make a worm swarm potion, but you have to defeat the slime god before you can do that. Demon Scythe Spellbook. Unfortunately I already have Blade's Oath, otherwise I could still use it. Ash Stalactite, a rogue weapon from hell, but it doesn't have any special features. Hey, this sword seems pretty good. Although I just got a broadsword with very luxurious special effects. But among Lav's trophies, there is also a weapon that looks similar in style. Question mark. Old God Broadsword Orange. Plus deal 60 melee damage. Plus you can raise this sword to charge and use it to launch a whirlwind slash. Plus when whirlwind hits, you will gain temporary invincibility and cause a flame explosion. This weapon has high damage, but is heavy and has no ranged projectiles. However, it can charge up to launch a special combat skill, Flame Whirlwind. Suyi tried to raise the old god's broadsword above his head and felt the hilt getting slightly warm. After the grooves of the sword were filled with the burning red color of magma, Suyi suddenly swung the giant sword. Bang, 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 bang. All I heard was a series of explosions along the path he passed, accompanied by bursts of sparks. It takes about 1 second to complete the charging process. Whirlwind's damage is good, but charging it is a problem. While Suyi was commenting, he took out the holy sword and copied the old god's broadsword. No matter what, it is an additional means of explosion. After wandering around in hell for another half an hour and looting some shadow treasure chests, Suyi and Lav teleported back to the base on the surface. Suyi didn't really need the equipment from the shadow chest. The main reason is that hell's weapons are rather different. It's either a hammer, a spear, or a strange weapon like a sickle. Only the Hell Wing Bow can be used. This bow transforms wooden arrows into piercing fire bats that deal damage and set them on fire. However, the flying speed of the fire bat is very slow, far slower than that of an arrow, and the flying angle will also deviate. Suyi fed all these messy weapons into the holy sword and converted them into energy. Judging from the light on the holy sword, it is probably not far from the next level of rarity. After returning from hell, Suyi's material library has been enriched a lot, coupled with deliberate collection. Soon, Suyi made the Terra Shining Boots that he had been dreaming of. Terra Shining Boots. Plus can fly for a short time. Plus can run very fast. Plus provide additional ice surface mobility. Plus can walk on liquid surface. Plus immune to lava damage for 7 seconds. Plus reduces all burn damage received. In fact, in the Disaster module, the Terra Shining Boots can be further upgraded. Its next level upgrade is called Angel Boots, which further enhances mobility. However, in order to make it, you need to defeat all the 3 mechanical kings in the early difficult mode. For Suyi, it is still an unattainable goal for the time being. Let's challenge the powerful enemy in front of us first. Taking his mind off the difficult mode, Suyi began to take inventory of his equipment. Because next he is going to challenge the slime god. The battle with the sword hero of the kingdom of Jorar was 2 days later. For Suyi in Terraria, there is still a whole week left. So he is not in a hurry at all and can even find time to fight a boss. As for protective gear, it's better to wear soft shell armor. With Terra Shining Boots, it can completely offset the negative effects. Quote. Suyi carefully selected 5 accessories from his equipment reserve. First is the Wings of Sky Feather. As the only 2 wings that can be obtained before hard mode, there is no reason to discard them. The second is Terra Shining Revolution. After the flight time of the Sky Feather wings is exhausted, you can take over the flight and greatly improve your own maneuverability. The remaining 3 items are the Stinger Necklace, the Cthulhu Shield and the Banshee Ring. The Stinger Necklace is a combination of the Shark Tooth Necklace and the Honeycomb accessory dropped by the Queen Bee. It provides the same defensive penetration as the Shark Tooth Necklace, but with the added bonus of a Honeycomb effect. After Suyi takes damage, he can release bees to attack enemies and gain the Honey buff. While in this buff, Suyi's health regeneration will be significantly increased. The Banshee Ring is one of the components for synthesizing Angel Boots, but it also has good effects on its own. Question mark. Bane Ring Orange. Plus 10% increase in movement speed. Plus 20% increase in flight time. Compared to the Rotten Brain, dropped by the Hive Will. Suyi finally chose the Banshee Ring to improve mobility. After all, the former needs to wait until the health value is reduced to a certain level before it can obtain the damage bonus. The last one is the item used to summon the Slime God, Overload Sludge. Overloaded Sludge, light red. Used to summon the slime god at any time and in any environment. Crafting overload sludge requires 40 units of blight gel, a material dropped by slimes in evil environments. Suyi had saved up a lot of it when he challenged the World Devourer and the Will of the Hive before, and now he could use it. In a few moments, a sticky purple-black mud ball was rubbed out. Ah, it feels like snot, a bit disgusting. Quote. Suyi threw the overloaded sludge that exuded a strange smell into the inventory with disgust, preparing to take it out before challenging the boss. The weapon used in the battle is naturally the holy sword that replicates many sword special effects. Considering that the damage is mainly melee, this time Suyi went to Seiko to get a bite of holy milk buff and gained a 50% melee damage bonus. Although it cannot critically hit, the overall damage will only be higher in expectation. Come to think of it, I haven't been getting new holy milk recently. After all, Setsuna and Raph don't look like they can produce holy milk. Queen Myrlia looks good. I wonder when I'll have a chance to taste her. Considering that the kingdom of Melamag is currently facing a crisis, Suyi feels that this opportunity will come soon. If all else fails, then just propose a deal directly. Her Majesty the Queen, who is willing to sell even her daughter, should not refuse. While thinking about random things, Suyi followed the ladder to an extremely large underground space. The area of the underground space is several times larger than the surface base. This is the battlefield that Suyi had Shadow Devourer dig out, specifically for challenging various bosses. This space is not only divided into layers with solid stone brick platforms, but also has many locations where you can climb with grappling hooks. In addition, the benefits of bonfires, hard lanterns and star bottles can cover the entire field. Combined with Suyi's own potion and holy milk, he can reach the peak of his strength. If you still can't win after this, it only means that you are indeed not strong enough and need to accumulate more experience. After preparing everything, in order not to waste the duration of the buff effect, Suyi directly took out the withered grass and threw it out. The next moment, the withered gel was suspended in the air, continuously emitting scarlet and red sandalwood light. Suyi also raised the holy sword and pointed at the expanding withered gel. Dying God, I salute you. The slime god has awakened. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 96, The Revenge of the Skeleton King. The Great Sage of Unity. The slime god is divided into 3 parts, Scarlet Guard, Ebony Guard and the Core. All 3 will spawn at the same time when overloaded sludge is used, regardless of whether the current world's evil environment is crimson or corruption. Just like when fighting Skeleton King, the 2 Holy Guards and the Core fought independently of each other. It's like fighting a small group boss battle, and each independent boss has a unique attack method. However, the core of the slime god is invincible, and you can defeat it as long as you defeat its 2 guards. In the empty underground battle space, the core of the slime god and the 2 holy guards have awakened. The moment he woke up, a series of ebony and bloody balls attacked Suyi like cannonballs. These barrages of evil power not only have great power, but can also cause weakness and darkness debuffs. The former will comprehensively reduce abilities such as attack, movement speed, and defense. The latter will darken Suyi's vision, making it difficult to dodge subsequent attacks. Just as the black and red barrages were pouring down on Suyi like a rainstorm, a pitch-black bone arm suddenly swung out from the air and blocked all the incoming barrages. The next moment, Suyi, holding the holy sword high, had already finished charging, and amidst the flying sparks, he turned and rushed towards the ebony holy guard in the front. Holy Sword Enchantment, Old God Broadsword. The sword's edge continuously cut through the ebony holy guard's body like a turbulent stream, causing continuous explosions. In an instant, the ebony holy guards suffered heavy damage. The splashing purple-black mucus quickly condensed in midair, summoning a flying, corrupted slime monster. At the same time, the red holy guards have also arrived over Suyi. 810 surprisingly used the slime's signature skill, Mount Tai's Pressure. Sprint. Suyi immediately interrupted the rhythm of the attack and used a sprint to avoid the bombardment of the Scarlet Holy Guard. Then he flapped his wings and flew into the air, swinging the holy sword towards the enemy, emitting sickle-like sword energy. Holy Sword Enchantment, Blade's Oath. The sickle sword energy with penetrating and tracking effects constantly shuttled back and forth between the ebony holy guards and the Scarlet Holy Guards, creating more wounds. The summoned creatures that were condensed due to the injury were crushed to death one after another by the 4 bony arms of the Shadow Skeleton King. Seeing this, the slime god core, which was covered in mud, did not bother to attack Suyi and directly drilled into the body of Ebony Guard. In the blink of an eye, the Ebony Saint Guard possessed by the core expanded in size again, and its momentum soared. The Ebony Ball barrage was fired at Suyi at a faster frequency, like a machine gun. At the same time, the possessed Ebony Holy Guard had actually learned how to charge and attack, and rushed over with an astonishing momentum like a fully armored half-hook. Stop these barrages. Suyi didn't expect the Shadow Skeleton King to be able to stop the charge of the Ebony Holy Guard. After issuing the order to block the barrage of bullets, he took off again and kept shuttling back and forth on the platform. Although the Shadow Queen Bee can also carry people to fly, its flexibility is definitely not comparable to flying by itself. Moreover, in a battle of this level, the weaker shadow soldiers were very easy to die, and Li Suya had to expend a lot of magic power to revive them. Therefore, Suyi only summoned the Skeleton King, whose strength was still acceptable, as a fighter and meat shield. In this way, even if the Skeleton King dies, he can be resurrected directly, and it will not be easy to disrupt the battlefield. If the World Devourer is summoned, the battlefield will be in trouble. The high-frequency barrage of attacks directly destroyed 2 of the Skeleton King's 4 bone arms, leaving only 1 bone arm still usable. However, before the bone arms are completely broken, its head has a high damage reduction, so it should be able to hold on for a while. As for asking it to attack the Slime God, that's a fantasy. Both the core and the 2 holy guards possessed a flexibility that did not match their bulky bodies. Not only can it jump high, but it can also rush around recklessly, just like a loach. If it weren't for this, Suyi wouldn't have stuffed 4 pieces of mobility-enhancing equipment into 5 accessory slots. In short, the mobility is maximized, and the rest is all left to the operation. I noticed that Suyi ran to the upper position again to avoid the collision. The Scarlet Holy Guard leapt high again, while the Ebony Holy Guard threw an astonishing number of ebony spheres upwards like a volcanic eruption. The diligent Skeleton King stretched out his remaining 2 bony arms and placed them in front of Suyi to protect him from harm. At the same time, Suyi faced the Scarlet Holy Guard jumping towards him with a slight smile on his face. Holy Sword Enchantment, Blade of the Imperfect Environment. First comes a pure sword energy with a crushing effect, increasing the damage taken by the enemy. Then he used Decay of Resistance to charge, colliding with the Scarlet Holy Guard to neutralize its attack. Finally, use the Great Withering, with amazing continuous damage to stick to the Scarlet Holy Guard and launch continuous attacks. After suffering a whole set of combos, the Scarlet Holy Guard finally couldn't hold on any longer and split into 2 smaller Slime Holy Guards with a gurgling sound. The small Scarlet Holy Guard has the same attack method as before, although the attributes are slightly weaker, but the attack is doubled. But this also means that attacks with penetrating effects and range damage will cause double damage to it. After the possession time ended, the core of the Slime God drilled out of the Ebony Holy Guard's body and rushed towards Suyi. If hit by the core, it will also inflict the slow debuff, which greatly reduces its speed. This Slime God is really in a negative state. Suyi looked at the Skeleton King, who was now only left with a bald head, and waved his hand. Let it launch a suicide charge directly towards the 2 small Scarlet Holy Guards, which can be regarded as the last bit of its life. He dashed forward, dodged the impact from the core, and swung out a series of sickle blade sword chi. The Ebony Holy Guard's defense was greatly reduced after the possession was released, and under the continuous attacks, it was split into 2 smaller bodies. In this way, the 2 Holy Guards have been completely split into 4 small Holy Guards and 1 core. On Suyi's side, the Skeleton King finally died gloriously in battle, and then was resurrected and appeared behind Suyi again. The battle seemed to be going very smoothly, but Suyi knew that the most tense moment was coming. Because the Holy Guard of the Slime God will greatly increase its attack speed when it is on the verge of death. And it will be strengthened with the death of another Holy Guard. This is why Suyi wants to split all the Holy Guards first. As long as the health is controlled well, killing all enemies at once will reduce the difficulty a lot. The long-range barrage of the 4 Holy Guards and their core directly filled the battle space with a scarlet and corrupt evil aura. Even with the Skeleton King's protection, Suyi had to adjust the angle of flight and constantly avoid incoming attacks. He felt like he was not fighting a boss in Terraria, but rather an allied pilot flying a bomber in the Pacific battlefield. The dense barrage of bullets caused Suyi to be hit by several scarlet balls and ebony balls in succession. His vision suddenly became dark, and even drinking night vision potions was useless. When we enter the difficult mode, we need to make the cross shield first. Otherwise these debuffs are too annoying. Su Yi frowned and drank a bottle of healing potion, thinking silently. Although the cross shield is very troublesome to make, it can greatly enhance Su Yi's immunity. It is a must-have item for home travel and killing monsters. Moreover, it can be enhanced in disaster, and can be sold and synthesized into more advanced accessories. After his condition was almost recovered, Su Yi flew out from behind the Skeleton King and launched a whirlwind attack directly at the holy guards of the slime god. Boom 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 boom. A series of explosions rang out from the split holy guards. At the moment when the invincibility time disappeared, Su Yi charged again and avoided all attacks. The next moment, he suddenly jumped up on his slime mount, throwing out a series of sickle sword chi in the air. Although these sword energies are ranged attacks, they are also considered melee damage and can still gain the bonus of Seiko's holy milk, so the damage is very considerable. After several rounds of this, the Scarlet Holy Guard that split first finally ran out of health and both exploded into a pool of red mud. Almost. Seeing that the Scarlet Holy Guard was dead, Su Yi realized that the Ebony Holy Guard probably didn't have much health left, so he resurrected the Skeleton King again. You've been beaten for so long, now I'll give you a chance to get revenge. The Skeleton King, who no longer needed to protect Su Yi, remained silent and just kept attacking. It was seen using an almost self-mutilating method to grab the violent Ebony Holy Guard in its 4 bony arms, and madly throwing it against the ground and walls. Seeing that even the last Holy Guard was about to be killed, the core of the slime god hurriedly drilled out of the body of the Ebony Holy Guard, but Su Yi directly blocked its escape route. Sorry, this road is blocked. Su Yi knew that the core was invincible and did not launch an attack. Just follow it and keep moving, as if you are flying with it, until the Skeleton King drains the remaining health of the Ebony Saint. After all the Holy Guards were killed, the core of the slime god gradually stopped moving, and finally, exploded into a pile of spoils mixed in filth. A ball of light emitting a pure aura suddenly emerged from the scarlet and corrupted mud. After hovering in the air for a while like a firefly, it suddenly rushed straight towards Su Yi. What the hell is this? Su Yi subconsciously wanted to dodge, but the light was so fast that by the time he reacted it had already reached his chest and penetrated into his body in the blink of an eye. Then, a long-lost system prompt appeared in front of his eyes. You have obtained a new ability, Reunification and Condensation, Great Sage. Chapter 97 Comprehensively Enhanced System Functions, Hatched Monsters. Return to Oneness and Condensation, sounds somewhat familiar, as if it is something related to disaster. The Great Sage, Su Yi knew that it was one of the special abilities of a certain cute king. But when these two are put together, he feels very strange. Could it be that since the slime god and the cute king are both slimes, they have the same abilities? Just when Su Yi was confused, a dialogue box suddenly popped up in front of him. At the same time, a calm, mechanical female voice came to my ears, speaking like an airport announcer. Answer: Unity and condensation is the racial talent of slime-like life. Weak gel creatures are upgraded to gods through continuous fusion, and the Great Sage is the power possessed by gods after becoming gods. Answer: I does not have the concept of autonomous consciousness. To be precise, I is the autonomous answering mechanism of the Great Circle's power. It seems to be the same as the system prompt, which is a wizard responsible for guiding you to use certain abilities. Answer: Your guess is correct. Don't pop up unless I ask. Seeing the dialogue boxes popping up frequently in front of him, Su Yi raised his eyebrows. He didn't want a Great Sage to appear and talk to him just because he had some random thoughts in his head. Sure enough, after giving the order in his mind, the Great Sage fell silent and no longer appeared on his own initiative. Because the Great Sage has no self-awareness, Su Yi does not need to worry about whether it is throwing a tantrum. Tell me what you can do. Answer: Please open your system panel. Following the guidance of the Great Sage, Su Yi called out the system and found that the newly acquired abilities were added to the Abilities column. Unlike skills like Terra Craftsman, this is a system function that will not be displayed in the ability value. Reunification and Condensation, Great Sage. The ability gained by killing the slime god for the first time has the following effects. Plus united is 1, faster thinking. The more contracts you sign, the faster your thinking speed. Plus analysis and identification, parallel calculation. The identification function obtains more information and can be used multiple times. Plus chanting excluded, all things in the universe, you can release skills and magic without chanting, and you can create new functions and jobs by yourself. The Great Sage, obtained from the slime god seems to be somewhat different from what Zhi Yi remembered. This capability is more like a comprehensive enhancement of several existing system functions. Strengthening the contract ability can increase the number of contracts to bring Zhi Yi a gain in thinking acceleration. Strengthening the identification ability will allow Zhi Yi to obtain more information through identification. Strengthening the function ability will allow Zhi Yi to create more functions on his own. Why didn't I gain similar abilities when I killed other bosses before? Is it because the one being challenged this time is God? After thinking for a moment, Zhi Yi suddenly slapped his head and laughed at himself. There are ready-made answers, why waste brain cells? Great Sage, answer my question just now. Soon, a familiar voice emerged in Zhi Yi's mind. Answer, this is one of the rewards for advancing the world of Terraria. Can I get this reward multiple times? Answer, no, you will only get the reward when you defeat a specific strong enemy for the first time. What other bosses can I get similar rewards from? Answer, information is missing, please explore on your own. It seems that even the Great Sage is not omniscient. However, the information just given is enough to answer Zhi Yi's questions. It seems that similar to the wall of flesh and blood, the slime god has also been given another function. Anyway, it's a good thing after all. And this ability is not without improvement for Zhi Yi. Accelerated thinking can allow him to improve his proficiency in stigma alchemy faster and use it more precisely. Not to mention chanting exclusion, it should be the ability that all magicians dream of. After collecting the spoils of the slime god, Zhi Yi jumped lightly, sat on the Shadow Queen Bee, and left the messy battle space. The most important reward in the slime god's treasure bag is not accessories or weapons, but a material called pure gel. Pure gel can be combined with the gel curing machine dropped by defeating the Slime King, to form the static refining machine, which is used to make status series equipment. In addition, it can be combined with some weapons that Zhi Yi has collected before to create powerful weapons of the Eternal Night series. Finally, the pure gel can also be used to make two functional potions. There is a bug swarm potion that can greatly improve monster spawning efficiency, and a meditation potion that has the opposite effect. However, when Zhi Yi calculated the consumption of materials, he found that the materials in the treasure bag were not enough. It takes 44 pure gels to craft a full set of status armor. Basically, all the materials dropped by the slime god have been used up, leaving only a few in the single digits. It seems that before challenging the wall of flesh and blood, I have to kill the slime god a few more times. Zhi Yi mourned for a second in his heart for the slime god who was about to become the new model worker. The set bonus for status armor is pretty good. Ability to gain temporary invincibility when taking a large amount of damage at once. It can also increase the jumping height and grant an extra number of jumps. Zhi Yi planned to keep a set of status armor for the thief class for himself. Because the set bonus for this profession adds an additional 90 points of stealth. The upper limit of stealth value will also affect the damage of stealth attacks. The original stealth value is 100 points, and an additional 90 points is equivalent to almost doubling the additional damage. Zhi Yi could already imagine the scene of him destroying the world with one strike of his cane. If it were paired with some accessories for the thief profession, the scene would probably be spectacular. After a day in the Terraria world, the monster egg that Zhi Yi had bought from the slave trader finally hatched. The first eggs to hatch are the philodendron eggs, which take only 24 hours to hatch. As for the flying dragon eggs, we still have to wait for more than 2 days. Ah, it looks like it's about to come out. Laugh, who had been helping to look after the monster eggs, suddenly made a surprised sound, attracting Zhi Yi who had heard the news. Inside the transparent incubator, the surface of the huge monster egg had already developed spider web-like cracks. Through the cracks, you can see something like the fur of a living creature, a soft object similar to feathers. As the cracks on the eggshell continued to expand with a crackling sound, a young monster poked its head out from inside. A magical beast covered with soft feathers and with eggshell fragments on its head, like a pink bird, met Zhi Yi's eyes. The young bird monster jumped up very lively and rushed straight towards Zhi Yi's face. Please give me flowers. It's so energetic right after it hatched. It looks like it has a lot of vitality. Zhi Yi rubbed his nose, trying to catch the little guy who tried to attack him. However, the baby bird obediently jumped onto his palm, rushed to his shoulder in one breath, and then jumped onto Suyi's head, looking very majestic. Beep. Seeing the young bird rubbing its cheek against Suyi's hair, Lav couldn't help but smile knowingly. It seems that it regards its owner as its father, or maybe its mother. Does the seal follow the behavior? Suyi's affection for the young bird was not surprising at all. After all, these two monster eggs only started to hatch after they shed blood to recognize their master. Soon, the young bird, which had just hatched from its eggshell, ate up its own eggshell completely, and then started to beep at Suyi non-stop. Sure enough, he has a big appetite, just like Raph back then. Suyi had already prepared by taking out a bunch of small animals caught with a net from his inventory, such as squirrels, rabbits and other reserve food. No, there's nothing we can do about it. This is the racial characteristic of subhumans. Hearing Suyi mention her dark history, Lav, who had grown from a little girl to a young woman, blushed and argued. And the master also threw the child into the battlefield of the Black Tide to quickly level up. This kind of thing is weird no matter how you think about it. Alas, the little Raph who used to follow me obediently is gone forever. Master, don't you like Raph right now? I just want to say that small ones are cute too. While the two were reminiscing about the past, the young bird had already eaten all the meat and fruit that Suyi had fed it, and was looking at them with its little head tilted up. By the way, has the owner decided on a name for it? Seeing the curious look of the pink baby bird, Lav couldn't help but stretch out her fingers and rub its furry little head a few times. Just call me Philo, Suyi said with preparation. Philo. Isn't this the name of its species? Since it's a philodendron, I think it's okay to call it philodendron. Just like cats all over the world have a nickname called Meow or Mimi. The master is really arbitrary in naming. Suyi glanced at Lav, who was holding the baby bird lovingly, and said with a smile. Since you like it so much, I'll leave Philo to you to take care of. Is this really possible, master? Hearing Suyi's words, the raccoon girl immediately showed a look of joy. There is no girl who doesn't like this cute furry little animal. After all, Setsuna has to deal with the affairs of the Ice Wolf clan, and I've been quite busy lately. I can only let you take care of the child. I don't know what she was thinking about, but Lav's pretty face suddenly turned red, even more shy than when she talked about her dark history just now. Since it is the master's order, I will help the master take good care of Xiao Failu. Seeing this, Suyi couldn't help but tease. After you get familiar with her, it's not wrong to let her call you Mom. Call me Mom. Then the master is Suyi didn't look away until Lav, with steam coming out of her head, staggered out of sight. Calculating the time, it's time to set off to the kingdom of Jorar to accept the challenge. Chapter 98. Are there no normal people in your country? If you take ordinary means of transportation, such as a carriage or riding a horse, it takes at least 3 days to reach the neighboring capital from the capital of the kingdom of Melamag. Therefore, from the very beginning, the kingdom of Jorar did not expect Queen Myrlia to be able to keep the appointment in time. But Suyi doesn't have to worry about this problem. When he arrived at the capital gate of the kingdom of Jorar riding on the Shadow Queen Bee, there is still half a day left before the appointment. It looks no different from the kingdom of Melamag. Because the procedures for entering the city were too complicated, Suyi simply used the invisibility potion to blend into the crowd and sneaked into the city openly. Perhaps because they are neighboring countries, the capitals of these two countries look almost the same. The buildings and clothing are similar in style, and even the composition of the citizens is surprisingly consistent, mainly humans, and there are only a few non-human races on the streets. So Suyi was too lazy to experience the local customs and went straight to the agreed battle venue, the royal capital arena. There were many notices with portraits of people posted on the bulletin board at the entrance of the arena. It looks like a promotion for some hot gladiator, or a competition announcement. When certain very popular characters appear on the bulletin board, the onlookers will cheer excitedly. Look, it's the sword hero, Lord Blade. In the duel just now, Lord Brad cut the strong Minotaur in half with one strike. It was so cool. Your Highness, Brad, I want to marry you. And Lord Brett, the cannon hero, can fire powerful magic cannons from hundreds of meters away. He's so reliable. The battle between the brave men is so exciting. I wonder when His Highness the hero of magic will be able to appear. Are you crazy? How could a noble princess appear in the arena? That's right. Princess Freya is more suitable to sit in the audience seats. Turning his attention away from the noisy discussions around him, Zhi Yi cast his gaze on the familiar faces in front of him. The sword hero, Blade. She looks like a handsome swordsman with blonde hair and blue eyes, but she is actually a more androgynous beauty in men's clothing. Not only that, she is also a genuine L*******************, often using various legitimate or illegitimate means to forcibly seize the girls she likes, and using cruel and violent methods to satisfy her perverted desires. The canon hero, Brett. He is a bald, strong man with a beard. Unlike Brad, he is a gay who likes men, especially handsome boys. The third hero who did not appear on the arena bulletin board was the eldest princess of this country. The hero of magic, Freya Elgrandi Joror. In the kingdom of Joror, Freya is very popular because of her outstanding appearance and leadership charm. But in fact, she is a sadist who despises everything in private. She is extremely spoiled and domineering and likes to torture her servants. Are there no normal people in this country? The heroes selected are also disappointing. Zhi Yi couldn't help but sigh when he thought about the ugly things he was about to face. How can I possibly save the world if I'm called a hero alongside these insects? At this moment, several uniformed staff members walked out of the arena, passed through the crowd, came to the bulletin board, and began to post new announcements. Zhi Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and read the contents of the notice clearly. Interesting, they actually posted the fight between me and Brad. If I hadn't come, wouldn't I have taken the opportunity to humiliate Melamag and even the 4 Saint Warriors? Even before Zhi Yi, the person involved, showed up, the competition information had already been announced to the residents of this city. Even a 3-year-old child can see the intention behind this. The game starts in 1 hour. Does this mean, these heroes, or even the princess, are in this arena right now? Thinking of this, Zhi Yi's expression changed and his figure quietly disappeared. At the same time, inside the VIP room of the arena. There's less than an hour left. Do you think the sword hero from Melamag will come? And even if we can get here in such a short time, our physical strength will be severely depleted. The 2 heroes of Joror were chatting leisurely. In their view, this battle was undoubtedly a sure win. Oh, that's a shame. The sword hero Brad leaned back in his chair and spoke carelessly. To be honest, I really want to fight another sword hero. It would be even better if the other person is a young and beautiful girl. But as far as I know, the sword hero, summoned by Melamag this time is a handsome and extraordinary young man. Canon hero Brett licked the corner of his mouth, as if he smelled the scent of prey. If you are not interested in him, then I will take action. I have no such right, don't forget who challenged that vixen Myrlia. As they spoke, the 2 heroes with unique tastes looked at the third person in the VIP room, Her Royal Highness the Princess, who was wearing a gorgeous dress. Your Highness Freya, if the sword hero is not here, what should we do? Of course, we should vigorously publicize this battle that can be won without fighting to our people. The princess with pink hair and a nice figure held her chin up and answered in a rather bored tone. It's all the fault of that incompetent king of the Melamag kingdom. He summoned all 4 holy warriors without authorization, causing us to lose a hero spot. If we don't take this opportunity to teach them a lesson, I'm afraid they will do something even more outrageous next time. The Kuroshio disaster occurred just a few days ago, and these 3 brave men rushed to the disaster relief. However, some towns still suffered devastating damage and suffered heavy casualties. I heard that thanks to the presence of the 4 Saint Warriors, Melamag was able to avoid the Black Tide this time without any damage. This made the countries whose hero quota 1.0 was snatched away even more angry, especially the neighboring country Joror. Although thanks to Myrlia's efforts, the anger of most countries has gradually subsided. However, Freya, who has a bad temper, will naturally not miss this opportunity. She couldn't help wanting to see the cunning Queen Myrlia bowing her noble head in front of her. Well, if she's willing to lick my shoes, I can let this matter go. Boom boom boom. There was a sudden knock on the door from the entrance of the VIP room. Brad and Brett looked at each other and said in unison, "What's up?" The voice of the arena staff came from outside the door. "Sword hero, your challenger has arrived, it's time for you to take the stage." Chapter 99, There is no future in being AL*******************. Let me straighten it out for you. The arena was filled with noise and bustle. Fake sword hero, you don't deserve the same title as Master Blade. You selfish bastards from Melamag, go back to your country. Eat shit now. Kill him. Lord Braid, cut him into pieces. After waving to the audience around him, Jorar's sword hero looked at the young man not far away and sneered. Did you hear that? They're all telling you to die. So what if I heard it? Su Yi took out the holy sword nonchalantly and stroked the slender sword blade that was glowing with a cold light. Can we start now? HMPH. The four holy warriors. Brad also drew his weapon from his waist. Her weapon is not a holy weapon, but a divine sword called Ragnarok. This sword can give her the ability to be immune to abnormal conditions and greatly improve her physical fitness and healing ability. Although in terms of growth potential, it is definitely not comparable to the holy weapons of the four holy warriors, it is still a powerful weapon. Is that your holy weapon? Brad looked at the holy sword in Su Yi's hand with jealousy. If it weren't for King Melamag's selfish desires, this holy weapon should have belonged to her. Melamag's sword hero, a simple contest is too boring, how about we add some excitement? Quote. Su Yi noticed her gaze and said lightly. You want this holy weapon in my hand. Ha 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 ha. You are very self-aware. Brad pointed Ragnarok at the enemy in front of him and laughed. A weapon like this is only worthy of the strong. If someone like you possesses it, it will only be covered in dust. I'll take your life. Su Yi seemed not to hear the other party's ridicule and gently reached out his hand to touch the sword. The blade of the holy sword turned purple-black, and a shadow like the night sky flickered as it was swung. My life. You are so arrogant. The next moment, Brad's expression became stern, and his speed increased dramatically. As a sword warrior, her sword skills may not be top-notch, but her destructive power and speed are definitely among the best. Almost in the blink of an eye, Brad had already held up Ragnarok and ran in front of Su Yi. It seemed that if she struck with all her strength, the brave man from the neighboring country who had just spoken arrogantly would be cut in two. Success. Too slow. As if he had been waiting for a long time, Su Yi muttered in boredom. When Brad heard this comment, his figure had already disappeared from his sight. What? The sword hero was horrified that she couldn't catch the other party's movements. After disappearing, from which direction will the opponent attack? Side, back, or top? Without time to think, Brad endured the discomfort of losing strength and changed his movements, and finally blocked the slash from behind at the critical moment. Su Yi's slightly surprised voice came from behind, but it was followed by a chuckle. So what's next? The tearing pain instantly spread from the shoulders to the back and waist. Brad was extremely angry. He had clearly blocked the opponent's attack, but why did he still get hurt? Taking advantage of the force of being hit, Brad took advantage of the situation to distance himself and re-established a standoff with Su Yi. Nice recovery. Su Yi glanced at the exposed wound on her shoulder. The horrific cut that was so deep that the bone was visible just now was now only a shallow scar. This is the enhanced regeneration effect granted by the divine sword Ragnarok, which is quite amazing. I wonder if my holy sword can copy the opponent's sword. It would be even better if it could. There's something strange about the holy sword in his hand. Brad's face was distorted as he wiped the sweat from his forehead, his eyes grim. But Su Yi didn't give her a chance to recover and attacked like a ghost. This time, Reed finally saw clearly how the holy sword in the opponent's hand attacked. As Su Yi swung his sword, a huge sword afterimage followed closely behind, launching an attack along with Su Yi's movements. Clang! Brad could only raise her sword to block, but she was able to block the first blow, but she had no way to evade the attack of the sword's afterimage, and she had another bloody wound on her body. Holy Sword Enchantment, Blade of Eternal Night. After obtaining the pure gel, Su Yi was finally able to make the Eternal Night's blade that he had always dreamed of. But he can no longer use the body of the Eternal Night blade. As long as you use the copy function of the Holy Sword, you can get the same attack effect, an additional slash over a large area. Seeing their own sword hero fall into a disadvantage, the spectators in the arena became even more excited. Lord Blade, don't lose to the scum of Melamag. Everyone, cheer for Master Brad. Master Brad can't lose. The words that were supposed to encourage herself were full of sarcasm when they fell into Brad's ears. These civilians are talking big, but if you have the guts, come and fight this monster. Judging from his reaction speed and attack power just now, this young man's physical fitness is even better than hers holding Ragnarok. This can no longer be called a human being, it's simply a humanoid monster, right? Especially the holy sword in the opponent's hand, and its strange attack method. It can be said that from the very beginning of this battle, I had already lost 90%. DV. While fending off Su Yi's continuous attacks, Brad looked towards the highest stand. Her Royal Highness the Princess of the Kingdom was sitting there, watching the battle. Your Highness Freya, it seems I can only rely on you. On the high platform, Freya snorted coldly, her expression quite dissatisfied. Useless rubbish, you can't even do this well. Then she picked up the staff beside her and began to chant the spell in a low voice. The magic that can make the brave warrior chant for such a long time must be extremely powerful. Sure enough, the originally clear sky suddenly and rapidly formed a cloud of rain carrying thunder, from which rumbling thunder could be faintly heard. The 7th level magic, Mjolnir. In this world, the ultimate magic that ordinary human magicians can cast is the 5th level magic known as the Age of Gods magic. As a brave warrior of magic, Freya can not only master all magic of the 4 elements of electricity, fire, ice and wind, but can also easily cast 7th order super level spells. At this moment, she actually wanted to use the power of thunderclouds to destroy Suyi, who was about to win the duel. Such blatant cheating, even if it were to be spread, would probably be seen as divine punishment from the gods against the sword heroes of the enemy country. Wait, Lady Freya, I'm still in the arena. Seeing the huge thunderclouds gathering in the sky, Brad was filled with horror. At the moment she was distracted, the blade of eternal night pierced her heart from behind. The attack was enough to kill an ordinary person on the spot, but due to the protection of the magic sword, Brad was able to survive. The next moment, boundless lightning descended from the sky and directly engulfed the arena. Boom 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 boom. The exploding thunder made the civilians in the audience hold their heads and cover their ears in pain. After the noise in their ears disappeared, they realized that the 2 heroes who were fighting in the arena had disappeared. Only the charred rubble caused by the lightning strike was left in its place. Seeing this scene, Freya was a little confused. She should have avoided Brad's location just now. Why did she disappear too? Thinking of this, Freya quickly gave orders to the guards beside her. 014603124 Philu 172,313,241. Seal off the arena and check every corner. Meanwhile, the world of Terraria. Quote. Brad, who escaped the lightning, was panting with sweat all over his face, like a stranded fish. There was still a horrible hole in her chest where the blade of eternal night had pierced it, and blood was constantly oozing out. Raph, give her treatment. A familiar voice came from behind, and Brad turned around vigilantly. But he found a flash of white light, and all the injuries on his body disappeared, even the pain disappeared without a trace. Hiss, your treatment is really expensive. Suyi looked at the gold coins consumed and couldn't help but frown. If I had known, I would have waited until you died before resurrecting you. It would have been cheaper that way. Quote. Who are you? Brad held his head with one hand and looked at Suyi. Is this the way you treat your master? Suyi waved his hand and asked Lav to leave his room. Because what happened next was not suitable for a pure child like her to watch. Master, are you kidding me? How could I? An intense pain instantly erupted deep in Brad's mind, causing him to roll on the ground without caring about his image. Then Suyi grabbed her collar and held her in front of him. Although the contract has been signed, it is still necessary to completely subdue this mentally twisted pervert. Although the duel just now was interfered by an ungrateful guy, the result is that I won for sure. You should have no objection, right? In that case, your life is mine. I'm giving you 2 choices now. One is to continue to serve me as the sword hero, and become my servant. The second option. Then, Suyi took out a bottle of potion that had been sealed for a long time from the inventory and shook it in front of Brad. This is the SX change potion, that will change you into another gender if you drink it. If you drink it, you will naturally become a man. I remember that you were extremely disgusted with men and didn't even want to be touched, right? Hearing the effects of the potion, Brad's eyes widened in horror, realizing what Suyi was going to do. Just as the other party said, she only likes young and beautiful girls, as for men. Even just appearing in her sight would make her feel sick. Not to mention making her a man. If you don't know what's good for you, I'll make you drink this potion, and then throw it to 4 or 5 strong men who like homosexuality. Suyi slowly recounted the horrific scene that made Brad tremble with fear. With your looks, you would be very popular among men even if you became a man, right? No, don't do this. I beg you. Brad knelt on the ground and begged Suyi sincerely. Being played around by a man is a man. She might as well just die. Since you don't want to become a man. Suyi slowly loosened her collar and looked down at the sword hero who had completely surrendered. Then try your best to please me with this woman's body and let me see your awareness. Chapter 100 Freya's Education Day, an opportunity to upgrade again. It really can't be copied. In the room filled with a strange atmosphere, Suyi casually threw Ragnarok aside. It is reasonable that holy weapons and divine weapons conflict with each other. After all, this was supposed to be a weapon used by heroes from both worlds, but now it has been fused together. But it's not a big problem. Suyi has plenty of sword weapons that can be copied, so this one is not a big deal. As if sensing his movements, the unconscious sword hero beside him gradually woke up. After regaining consciousness, the moment Brad saw Suyi, he couldn't help but tremble all over and look afraid. Yesterday's battle was a long one. Although Brad was a veteran, he had never fought against an opponent of the opposite S**X. From the beginning to the end, she was completely suppressed by Suyi, and even if she wanted to fight back in the middle, she failed. In the end, even she herself couldn't remember how many times she begged for mercy before Suyi reluctantly let her go. Thinking back on it now, Brad couldn't help rubbing her legs. She has realized that she has been completely conquered by Suyi from body to mind. Follow me back to the kingdom of Joror. Suyi threw her a piece of clothing and instructed. Then, I will go to see Her Royal Highness the Princess in your name. He had no intention of keeping Brad in Terraria, and didn't even give him the permission to teleport. This time it was just to teach her a lesson. After all, the kingdom of Joror still needed her as a brave warrior to resist the Black Tide. Of course, Suyi did not intend to let go of Freya, who tried to destroy the body. Women with this name are always full of bad intentions. After Suyi left, two little heads popped out from the door of the room. So, is this the reason why I left? The raccoon girl withdrew her gaze from the room, leaned against the wall, and slowly slid to the ground. I always feel that, the master is so powerful, he is a completely different person than usual. Quote. Beep. Ahahaha, it's normal for you not to understand, Philo, it's something adults would do. As she spoke, Lav looked down at her body and muttered to herself. I am an adult now. Master, why do you still treat me like a child? Trademark bloody hell. Pipe exclamation mark quote. I know. I'll get you something to eat right away. Kingdom of Joror, Royal Palace. The sword hero's safe return caused quite a stir. After declining the nobles' requests, Reed finally got Freya's permission to meet her. Why did you disappear in the arena? In the reception room where only two people were sitting, Her Royal Highness, wearing only thin pajamas, crossed her legs and waited for Brad's answer. He teleported me to a strange place, Your Highness. Brad couldn't help but secretly look at the beautiful Freya in front of him, his heart full of admiration. Even though Suyi had just performed the Ji-Lao correction technique on her, she still found it difficult to give up her love for the princess. Oh, tell me more about it. Upon hearing this, Freya immediately showed a curious look, put down the teacup in her hand and listened carefully. This is what happened. Just when Brad was about to say something, a hand suddenly appeared and quickly grabbed Freya's neck, making it almost impossible for her to breathe. Even a wizard as powerful as the hero of magic can't cast magic in this situation, right? Suyi directly kicked Freya's divine weapon, the divine staff, Vanargand, to the wall to avoid future troubles. Quote. Question mark exclamation mark quote. The sudden attack made Freya's green eyes widen instantly. She tried to ask for help from the sword hero next to her, but saw Brad looked away in embarrassment. This made Freya understand everything instantly, but she couldn't figure out what he was thinking. Why would this guy betray me? I didn't want to meet you in this way, but you really went too far. Suyi pressed Freya against the wall like she was holding a chicken. 7th level magic. This kind of gift is not affordable for most people. Fortunately, I am not an ordinary person. So, now it's my turn to give you a welcome gift, such as a permanent slave contract. If the few heroes from other worlds summoned by the kingdom of Melamag were merely the impulse and arrogance of some young people, then the several local heroes of the kingdom of Joror are complete psychopaths. Suyi had no psychological burden at all when using a compulsory contract on them. Perhaps this is a righteous act to eliminate hidden dangers for this kingdom. The forced contract requires the target to be on the verge of death, and Suyi has 1,000 ways to do this. What did you do to me? After signing the contract, Suyi released the hand that was controlling Freya. After breaking free from his control, the latter quickly shrank into the corner with a look of disbelief. I am the first princess of the kingdom of Joror. How could I possibly submit to someone like you? It seems that education is still needed. Su Yi snorted coldly and glanced at the sword warrior who was eager to try. Braid, keep her under control, I allow you to do what you want while I teach Yelea. In the blink of an eye, the sword hero promised with a fanatical look on his face. Leave it to me, master. For Her Highness Freya, I will carry out your orders perfectly. Aren't you doing this for me? Why are you listening to this guy? Looking at the two people approaching her step by step, Freya felt like crying but had no tears. Deep in the palace, an unknown action education blockbuster is quietly taking place. A few days later, looking back at the capital of the kingdom of Joror, Su Yi patted the Philo bird under him without any reluctance. Beep, let's go. Philo, who had grown big enough to carry the two of them, made pleasant cries and flapped his pink wings as he sped along. It's not that Su Yi wants to exploit little Philo, who is less than a month old. But this is the habit of the Philo bird. If it is not allowed to pull some goods or carry people, it will be unhappy. Although Su Yi had 2 new contractors on this trip to the kingdom of Joror, he actually didn't gain much. Brad and Freya do not have contract skills, and their divine equipment is still bound to them, so they cannot use it. Apart from Su Yi having a good time, the business trip was a complete waste of time. However, after returning this time, Su Yi will be able to obtain a piece of territory gifted by the queen, so it won't be a wasted trip. The slime god has become a hard worker. The next step is to prepare for a decisive battle with the wall of flesh and blood. While controlling Philo to prevent it from running out of the road, Su Yi was thinking secretly. With the blessing of return to oneness, great sage, his thinking speed can reach hundreds of times that of Zhao before. As the number of contractors increases, this number will continue to rise. However, the strength of the contractor will also affect the effectiveness of unity. The more you sign a contract with a strong person, the faster your thinking speed will be. After forcing a contract with Brad and Freya, Su Yi's only gain was that his thinking speed was improved to a higher level. However, I should update my ability values. Before going back. Looking at the panel showing that he had already upgraded all his basic abilities to SSS, Su Yi couldn't help but look forward to it. With his accumulated great deeds, once the ability value is updated, it means that he can upgrade. Such an astonishing upgrade speed would definitely cause quite a stir. However, after Su Yi confronts Hephaestus, he should be able to obtain the protection of the goddess. Anyway, the ability value is the clan's secret, so there will be no problem as long as you don't reveal it actively. Therefore, Su Yi can confidently and boldly upgrade his level without worrying about attracting too much attention. I don't know what kind of development capabilities I will gain from this upgrade. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.